Before we start, the name is at the top of the screen. The teacher claps her hands and announces that is it for today's class. Layla exhales and stretches in relief, her shoulders finally loosening. Done. Lessons after work, another exhausting week survived. Her soul feels like it deserves a medal. But before she can savor that victory, Yui points sharply at the pile of dirty dishes and, in a voice that allows no argument, tells her to clean up. Now. Later, as they walk back toward their apartment, Yui starts again. She says all Layla ever does is eat and eat. What, exactly, is she even doing in a cooking class if she cannot be bothered to clean afterward? Layla admits she is right. She really is terrible at cleaning. She offers an awkward smile, the kind meant to end a conversation, not wanting to admit the real reason. She is only here because Yui practically dragged her into these classes in the first place. Yui sighs and slips fully into lecture mode. If Layla does not fix her laziness now, she will regret it someday. Layla nods with a strained smile, thinking that Yui is officially on full mom mode again. She appreciates it. Truly. But appreciating advice and actually changing are two very different things. Once someone falls into this kind of life, climbing out feels impossible. She returns to her apartment alone and immediately freezes. The place is a disaster. Trash, cans, clothes, clutter everywhere. Even she, with her famously low standards, feels a stab of shame. It is bad. Really bad. She understands now why Yui scolds her so much. As a person, no, as a 25-year-old woman, this is rough. Embarrassing, even. Still, she sighs and makes the same promise she always does. Tomorrow she will clean everything. She does not know that this tomorrow will never come. Her foot slips on a crushed can. The world tilts. Layla falls hard, staring up at the ceiling as pain explodes through her body. She cannot breathe and her vision is fading. So, this is it, she thinks hazily. From now on, she will really live properly like a normal person. Then, suddenly she is falling. Layla wakes in a panic, wind roaring past her as the sky stretches endlessly above. She is tumbling from a massive height. Why is this happening? Nope. She is definitely dead. Well, crap, she thinks. At this point, she just wants to pass out and die peacefully. But the pain never comes. When she finally sits up in shock, she realizes she is still alive. Her hands touch something hard beneath her, smooth, uneven, strange. Scales. Scales. Isn't that the ground? A deep voice rumbles nearby. Layla freezes. Slowly, dread crawling up her spine, she turns her head. A massive dragon is staring straight at her. She cannot move. If she runs, she will fall and die. If she stays, she will probably be eaten. If that is her fate, she sincerely hopes it happens while she is unconscious. When she regains consciousness again, she finds herself lying in a vast field of flowers. She doesn't think she has seen flowers this pretty. The sky is also beautiful and the sun is so bright. Is this heaven? Whatever it is, she is relieved that dying was not too painful. Then a voice asks if she is awake. Her eyes widen. When she does not respond, the voice asks again. She screams, calling the dragon before her a monster. The dragon recoils, clearly offended, and snaps that such language is rude. He is not a monster, he is a dragon. That makes her freeze. Now that he says it and now that she really looks, she supposes he is right. But a dragon? How is that even possible? Then again, she must be in the afterlife. The dragon asks who she is. She answers automatically. Her name is Layla. Born and raised in Japan. 25 years old. An office worker. Her special skill is sleeping anywhere, and her weaknesses. The dragon tilts his massive head and interrupts her. He does not understand a single word she is saying. Layla stares at him, looking confused. Is he a Chinese? Then she cautiously asks if he can speak Japanese. He blinks and asks what is that? Her brain short-circuits. She looks utterly dumbfounded and mutters that not being able to understand each other is kind of a problem. He disagrees immediately. They do understand each other. Then what is the problem? She demands. He answers calmly that she is using far too many words that he doesn't understand. Layla pauses, processes that, and decides to simplify. She takes a breath and introduces herself again. Just her name. Layla. Lila, he repeats. No. Layla, she corrects. He says it wrong again. She stares at him for a second, then sighs. Whatever. Close enough. He seems pleased and moves on, asking why she was falling from the sky. She gives him a shy, uncertain smile. Actually, she was going to ask him that. The last thing she remembers is hitting her head. Then she woke up like that, falling. Her thoughts spiral. What is she supposed to do now? She cannot remember anything clearly. Yui is probably panicking. Work is ruined. Her friends. Her parents. She messed everything up. In the end, she simply tells him the truth. She does not know. He considers this, then tells her to stay here for a while. Only then does Layla truly notice her surroundings. She looks around slowly, taking it all in, and finally asks where she is. This, he announces, is Dragon King Castle, the capital of the Dragon Kingdom. He then reminds her that she claimed she could sleep anywhere. She straightens immediately, her expression turning deadly serious. Yes. That is her specialty. He tells her that until she finds somewhere to go, she may stay in some corner of the castle. Any corner will do. Then he calls out a name. Burgundy. A man appears almost instantly, a sword resting casually on his shoulder. His hair is red and his build is impressive, very impressive. Layla watches in awe. What is this fantasy nonsense? She just died and woke up in a world full of dragons and absurdly attractive men. Her face starts burning. Get a grip. The dragon instructs Burgundy to show the new girl around. He asks at this hour. Isn't it likely that the only people in the castle are in the kitchen? The kitchen is fine, the dragon replies. Burgundy turns to her and asks her name. Lilac, she blurts out. He tells her to follow him and starts walking without waiting for her response. Layla hurries after him, but glances back at the dragon. It is strange. It's a little surprising that he was giving orders like he was someone important. Is he a pet? Or something else entirely? A dragon. A dragon king. A dragon king's castle. She really has ended up in a ridiculous place, hasn't she? Layla shakes her head firmly. Pessimism will not help her now. This is a fresh start. Looks like she reincarnated from here on as Lilac. She guesses she will be living in some corner of the Dragon King castle. Layla stares up at the castle in pure awe. It is huge. Burgundy says casually. Well, yes, it is the king's castle. She glances at him and asks if the Dragon King is actually the ruler of this country. He looks at her like she just asked whether the sky is real. Seriously? She did not even know that. Layla smiles sheepishly and says no. After all, she did just fall out of the sky, but he does not need to know that. This is the Dragon Kingdom, ruled by the Dragon King. The land of the Dragon King. It covers half the continent. Layla falls silent, lost in thought. This is definitely not Earth. At a glance, it almost looks like Europe, but if things get any more fantasy than this, she is not sure she can handle it. Burgundy opens a back door and announces they are at the kitchen. Chaos greets them instantly. Chefs shout orders, servants rush past. The kitchen is packed and aggressively busy, everyone moving with urgency. Layla blinks. They are deep into meal preparation. Burgundy says yeah, though it's still early for dinner. She thinks at least time works the same here. She feels oddly relieved. Then she frowns and asks if this is not awfully early. When is dinner? 6, he replies. She stares at him. That is an absurd amount of prep time. That's how it is, he says. The ingredients have to be cooked quickly, or they rot. She supposes that makes sense, but are the ingredients here really that delicate? Can she even handle this place? Burgundy calls out to the head chef and tells her this is a new girl. She will keep an eye on things here. The chef looks up for 1 second and mutters understood. With that, Burgundy announces he is heading out. Layla thanks him, but the moment he leaves, she freezes. Wait. Is he really leaving her here? This place is a war zone. Standing around while everyone is running at full speed feels so wrong. She offers to help a girl carry something, but the girl snaps at her to get out of the way. She picks up one of the plates and asks one of the staff what to do with them. He snaps back that they are busy. She can figure it out herself. Anger bubbles up. Is this a kitchen or a sweatshop? She forces herself to calm down. If they fire her, she will be homeless. Determined, she marches to the sink. She can at least do the dishes. The setup looks almost exactly like the one in her trash-filled apartment. She asks if this is detergent. Taupe replies yes. As she scrubs, she realizes the grime is practically fused to the plates. They should have soaked these first. Everything is different here, making it difficult. The soap is weirdly slimy. Then it happens. The plate slips from her hand. It shatters. All the heads turn to her. She messed up. Taupe sharply calls her a newbie and snaps that those plates are for serving the Dragon King. Does she understand that? Layla squeaks and asks if they are expensive. What's broken is broken, Taupe replies coldly. But they are already swamped. The least she can do is not give them more work. In the end, she was proved completely useless. Taupe angrily banned her from touching anything fragile. So that is how she ended up carrying out trash or haul ingredients. A rotten potato slips from her basket and rolls across the floor. Another maid glares at her. Layla panics and chases after it. The potato stops near a man's foot. A gloved hand picks it up. Layla looks up, and freezes. Another hottie. A completely different presence from Burgundy's rowdy energy. Seriously, what is the face card situation in this place? Then he speaks, his voice cold. He asks if she really thinks she can survive here. Layla is stunned. First meeting, and that is his opening line. He places the potato back into her hand and walks away without another glance, leaving her standing there. She stares after him, curiosity burning in her gaze. Who was that guy? Those black, jade-like eyes, she feels like she has seen them somewhere before. Layla bolts back into the kitchen and blurts out that there was a super hot guy outside just now. One of the maids gives her a completely dead, unamused look. The others do not even spare her a glance. Layla looks around properly this time. Every single one of them looks gloomy, exhausted and tense, but they keep working like machines. Layla approaches one of the maids and asks quietly if they ever take breaks. The maid mutters, breaks? Like it is a foreign word. They do not get those here. Layla's eyes widen. In a slightly freaked out tone, she asks if they do not ever get tired. The maid replies flatly that they cannot afford to make mistakes. That is why. Layla steps back, unsettled. What is wrong with this place? Everyone is so tense, or rather, they are wound up too tight. Honestly, working non-stop would just make people mess up more. Then a smell hits her. She closes her eyes instinctively. It smells nostalgic. Her mood flips instantly. She turns bright-eyed and asks happily if, by any chance, they have lunch. The maid looks pissed. There is absolutely no such thing. They do not eat lunch. They just nibble on whatever happens to get cooked along the way. That is why they always make extra food. Layla stares at her. How does anyone live like that? She is starving. She gathers her courage and approaches Taupe, who glares at her before she even opens her mouth. What is it now? Layla asks if she could maybe have some of the unused vegetables over there. Taupe waves her off. Whatever. They were about to toss them anyway. Layla thanks her sincerely and rushes to the box. Potatoes, carrots, onions. Not ideal, but vegetables are vegetables. She notices a black, dried-looking thing and asks a passing maid what it is. Dried seaweed, the maid replies. Layla asks if they are planning to use it. Absolutely not. They cannot serve something so tough to the Dragon King. They normally use fresh, soft ones in salads. Layla hesitates, then says maybe dehydrated ones could still be used. Not wasting food and all. It might even be wakame. She checks. She eats a piece. It is. The taste hits her instantly. The taste takes her back. This is straight up broth. Then she wants something like that, something similar. She opens nearby shelves and asks if she can borrow a little of this dressing. The maid watches her with suspicion as Layla tastes it and nods. Just as she thought. She explains she is dissolving something first, oils and flavor from that barrel over there. She insists she is only borrowing a little. She gets to work. She soaks the kombu or whatever it is in water. Gently warms it. Pulls it out before it boils. Kombu stock. Then vegetables. Then that seasoning from earlier. That seasoning turns out to be a miso imitation. Before she knows it, she is making Japanese miso soup. She exhales shakily, overwhelmed with gratitude. Yui dragged her lazy self to cooking class, and now, in another world entirely, she can still eat like this. Taupe approaches, her expression unusually cautious. What is that? It smells good. Layla tells her it is miso soup. Taupe has never heard of it. She hesitates, then smells it. She takes a sip. Her face softens. She admits it is actually good. How did Layla come up with this? Layla tells her it is just a common home-cooked dish from her hometown. Taupe frowns. She has never heard of anything like that. What kind of backwater dish is this? What even is the base of the soup? Layla tells her how she made it. Taupe looks genuinely surprised. So that shriveled seaweed actually had a use after all. The head chef steps closer and asks if Layla can cook. Layla says she guesses so. Then, without fully thinking it through, she offers if they want, she could start making meals for everyone from now on. The kitchen freezes. Every single person stares at her in shock. Taupe asks what exactly this makanai thing is. Layla realizes she probably has to start from the very beginning. After all, they have been surviving on scraps until now. She explains that makanai is short for makanai meals. Food made for the staff. Taupe says she has never heard of anything like that. And Layla is saying she can make it. Layla flashes a peace sign, confidence returning. Yes. She can cook. No problem. Taupe sighs, true. At the very least, Layla has not destroyed any food. And nobody here can replicate that flavor she just made. It might actually be useful for them to learn something new. Layla blurts out that she is also the least busy person here, so she is kind of perfect for the job, right? Taupe pauses, then smiles. For the first time. That is a fair point. Fine. Then they will do it. Layla exhales internally. She thinks she has just acquired a job. She will not be completely useless after all. Later, they are all sitting around a table. One of the staff murmurs that it feels nice to eat while seated. At first, she thought a break space like this was a waste of room. But after standing all day, working non-stop, her legs feel like they might give out. And the soup is surprisingly good. The side dish too. Layla tells her it is called onigiri. It is also from her hometown. Made with rice, well, grain, she guesses. The staff member stares at it thoughtfully and says she never imagined sativa could turn out like this when cooked. She has only ever boiled it. Layla suggests maybe it tastes better because they can actually take a breather while eating. The woman hums in agreement. She feels like she has been making fewer dumb mistakes after taking a break. Layla asks carefully if small mistakes are really such a big deal. The answer is immediate. Yes, if the Dragon King finds out they messed up, they are fired on the spot. Layla asks even if it is their first mistake. She replies yes. No second chances. Layla swallows. So the Dragon King is that strict, huh? If her uselessness gets discovered, she is getting tossed out immediately. The woman thanks her for the meal and begins gathering the dishes. Layla offers to help, but the woman waves her off. It is fine. Layla will just break something again. Layla winces. For some reason, this girl reminds her a little of Yui. The woman frowns sharply and says that she has a perfectly proper name. It is Magenta. Then she points at Layla and calls her Lilac, telling her not to mess up anything else. Layla freezes. Right, here. She is Lilac. She still doesn't know what happened to her old world and there is a lot she doesn't understand, but for now she will just keep pushing through one day at a time. A few days later, Layla is happily cooking. Today, they even have meat. Her dish for the day is tanjiro. As it simmers, she catches a scent drifting through the kitchen. She inhales deeply and tells Taupe that something smells divine. What is that? Taupe answers that today's dish for the Dragon King is chilled vegetable potage. Layla peers at it. It kind of looks like her tanjiro. Taupe immediately warns her not to lump staff meals together with hers. Before Layla can reply, Magenta calls out sharply. The plating team gets their break first, so she had better hurry up with the makanai. Layla answers quickly and turns back only to realize they are short on bowls. She scans the counter. She needs one more dish. Then she spots it. A bowl of the perfect size. It is fancier than a usual bowl, but she's only using it for a second, so it will be fine. Magenta snaps at her again to hurry up. Layla turns back to grab the bowl. It is gone. She freezes, then clutches her face in disbelief. What just happened? She is sure she ladled soup into it just seconds ago. She blurts out that the bowls are gone. Magenta tells her there are clean ones by the sink. Layla nods, but her mind keeps circling back. That was strange. She knows she put soup in that bowl. She finishes serving everyone. One of the maids thanks her and tells her her break will be with the next group. When Layla looks back at the pot, she frowns. There is barely anything left. Did she give too much to the first group? It was only 2 ladles each. She is sure of it. Then the kitchen doors slam open. A man storms in and demands that the person who made that strange soup show themselves. Layla's stomach drops. Who is this? He looks strict and angry. Taupe immediately steps in front of him and demands what he means by strange soup. The man visibly shrinks. He backtracks at once, stammering that no, he did not mean strange. He did not say it was strange at all. He apologizes quickly, then adds that today's soup was not Taupe's usual dish, was it? Taupe asks what is he talking about. Today's soup is chilled vegetable potage. The man replies no. He can swear it was not that. It was a plain soup with wheat and vegetables. Why would she serve something like that to the Dragon King? Layla freezes. Slowly, very slowly, she raises her hand. Later, the man stands before her, glaring as she bows deeply in apology. She explains she truly could not find a bowl, so she used the clean white one on the prep counter. It was only Tanjiro. Staff food. He mutters under his breath. With Taupe here, what a blunder. This is exactly why he was against letting someone like her stay in the first place. Layla insists that Taupe did nothing wrong. He snaps at her to be silent. Either way she will personally apologize to the Dragon King. All the maids told her the Dragon King is terrifying. Worst case he will get mad and kick her out of the castle. No, it might not stop there. What if she gets dumped in a world she doesn't know anything about? How is she supposed to survive? She shakes herself out of her panicked thoughts when he says they've arrived. She looks up, and a massive, shiny door looms ahead, so tall she has to tip her head back just to see the top. Her throat goes dry. Fawn steps forward and knocks. His voice, usually sharp, turns unusually respectful as he announces that he has brought the girl. A deep, heavy voice answers from within. Enter. Layla flinches. The doors open, and as she steps inside, her gaze immediately lands on a long table stretching across the room. From where she stands, she cannot clearly see the seat of honor at the far end. She bows deeply, eyes fixed on the floor. The king tells her to raise her head. Slowly, she does. And freezes. It is him. The man from before. The one who picked up her potato. No. There is no way he is the Dragon King. She stares without meaning to, and he tilts his head slightly, asking what is wrong. She snaps out of it at once, blurting that it is nothing. Her apologies. He asks calmly if she is the one who made the soup. Yes, she answers, bowing again. She apologizes if it offended his palate. She will replace it immediately, he only needs to wait a moment. He looks at her, eyes widening in clear surprise. Offended his palate? He says it's quite the opposite. It was a rare flavor. And quite delicious. Layla's eyes open instinctively. He is not mad. He asks her what kind of cuisine it was. She answers cautiously. It is from her hometown, though it is not exactly a proper version. He asks what she means by not proper. She explains that the ingredients here are slightly different from what she used back home. She had to improvise. Hometown, he repeats thoughtfully and then says he understands. A chill runs through her. Did her story about falling out of the sky reach the Dragon King already? The man with the glasses seemed to know as well. So that is why. That is why he said back then that she would not be able to make it here. Once again, she apologizes, adding that in any case, they deeply regret the discourtesy of serving him something meant only for Makanai. He tilts his head slightly, puzzled, and asks what that is. When she explains that it is food for the kitchen staff, understanding dawns on his face. So the meal preparations were that hectic today. She blinks, a little surprised. He does not seem nearly as terrifying as everyone made him out to be. Then he suddenly asks why that food ended up in his quarters. She jumps, along with Fawn, and blurts out that it is entirely her fault. She even used the wrong bowl. She is always clumsy, like when she tried to chill vegetables and accidentally dumped them all down the sink, or when she cleaned the floor and poured milk everywhere thinking it was wax. Even the other day during break, Fawn snaps at her, asking what on earth she is going on about. She stiffens, bows again, and shortens it. It is all because she is careless and sloppy. The king clenches his fist and mutters that he understands now. She can spare him the rest, his stomach is starting to hurt. Her face pales instantly. Did he get food poisoning? No, he says calmly. Her story is just too funny. She blurts, was he laughing? He straightens at once, his expression returning to its usual seriousness, and says that in any case, he liked the soup. If she is making it every day, she can bring it to him as well. Fawn looks just as shocked as she feels. He blurts out that His Majesty intends to eat food made by some unknown girl. The king replies casually that he does. The kitchen staff eats it every day, do they not? Fawn argues that a king should not eat food made by someone who is not even an official servant. The king considers this, then says simply that they will hire her officially. They will employ her as a maid, then Fawn would have no objections, correct? Fawn deflates. Very well. For the first time, the king visibly relaxes. He looks at her and smiles and tells her that from now on, she will bring that soup to him every day. She stares at him with wide eyes. Was that a smile? So she guesses she will be working as an official maid here at the Dragon Castle. Magenta stares at her in shock, thinking how unbelievable it is that Layla is actually going to become the Dragon King's attendant for meals. Layla herself is still stunned and says the person with glasses looked reluctant too. Magenta asks if Layla means Butler Fawn. Layla says that he always worries about the Dragon King's mood, and that's why he acts that way. Now that she thinks about it, the Dragon King isn't scary at all. Magenta looks a little surprised, questioning if that is really so. Layla sheepishly smiles and admits that she ended up telling him all sorts of stories about her failures. Magenta's face shifts to horrified disbelief, thinking that Layla must be joking. She grimaces and reminds her that, from now on, being an official maid will mean her work and responsibilities increase. Layla nods firmly, assuring her that she is prepared. She bows deeply, expressing gratitude for the offer to share a room and saying she looks forward to Magenta's care. Magenta thinks it is good that there is an extra bed available and tosses a uniform toward her, explaining that Layla will need it and should try that size. As Layla wears the uniform, something small falls from her pocket. She picks it up and wonders what it is. It is a small glass tube tucked inside the skirt's pocket, and though she does not know why, it feels important enough that she shouldn't lose it. Magenta calls out again, asking if the uniform fits. Flustered, Layla quickly places the tube into a drawer before responding. The next day, when Layla enters the kitchen in her new uniform, everyone watches her with a mixture of awe and surprise. Taupe approaches and comments that the uniform suits her perfectly. Layla smiles, feeling happy and finally accepted. One of the maids teases, well, what can they do if they are suddenly told to take care of some unknown child? The other says a girl who fell from the sky, that is what she has heard, so they are also on guard. She smiles awkwardly, wondering what should she say regarding that. Was she reincarnated to be here or did she just get transported to this world? To be honest, she still hasn't grasped the situation. But she cannot consult anyone about something like this. First of all, they probably wouldn't believe her. Before she can dwell on it any longer, Taupe claps her hands and announces that everyone should get to their posts, reminding them of the mountain of work waiting. She turns to Layla and tells her that, from now on, she is in charge of the soup, handing her a set of ingredients. Layla's eyes widen as she takes in the fresh meat and vegetables, thinking how great they are. She confirms, can she really have the whole thing? Taupe nods and explains that the best parts are reserved for the Dragon King. For the staff meal portion, they will use the leftovers. Layla beams and replies understood. After finishing most of her tasks, Layla realizes that she has gained some leeway, though she is still busy. She thinks it would be nice if she could prepare some ingredients in advance. Taupe shakes her head at the suggestion, warning that the ingredients will spoil if stored ahead of time. Layla says, but if they put it in the refrigerator? Taupe repeats refrigerator. With a questioning tone. Stove, lamp, broom, and this world doesn't even have electricity. She sighs and admits to herself that it cannot be helped. She misses modern Japanese appliances terribly and can't help crying out that she wants her refrigerator. Just then, Burgundy walks into the room and hears her. He frowns slightly, asking what she is talking about. Fawn glares at him from where he is eating the soup and mutters that it would be better not to take such a young girl's words seriously. Layla pouts and mutters even someone like him is eating her leftovers, isn't he? Fawn blurts that it's a taste test. Since it is for the Dragon King, there is no other way. He thinks the soup has a simple, good flavor, though. Burgundy turns back to her, asking what she was talking about. He suggests that if it is something convenient, maybe Spruce can make it. He explains that Spruce is the strategist of the country, and, to put it plainly, the most powerful magician in the land. Layla's eyes widen. Magician? Amazing. It feels just like a game. Fawn snaps at Burgundy, asking if he really intends to drag Lord Spruce into this girl's nonsense. Burgundy shrugs and asks if it is really that bad. He says anyway, they can just try asking. He tells Layla that she can come too and asks if she can explain it to Spruce. Layla straightens, determination settling over her. Indeed, she can. Moments later, she finds herself standing outside the Dragon King's dining room with Burgundy. With all determination suddenly gone, she nervously whispers this is the Dragon King's dining room. Burgundy confirms and begins to enter. Layla freezes, panicking, saying that the king would probably be eating. Burgundy waves her off, telling her not to worry, and walks in. The king looks up and asks Burgundy what is going on. Burgundy smiles and explains that Layla was talking about something interesting, so he was wondering if they could make it. The king glances at Layla, telling her to explain what she just said. Before she can speak, a person sitting with the king smirks. He asks if this is the girl rumored to be the miso soup girl, remarking that she is quite a lovely young lady. Layla feels her face turn red. More handsome people surround the king, too, on both sides. This room is saturated with handsome men, and just their faces alone seem worth millions of points. Burgundy glances at her, noting that it is her first time meeting them. He explains that the man with long hair over there is Indigo, called the Vice General, who also happens to be the country's good fortune. The curly-haired man is Spruce, the magician he mentioned earlier. Layla softly asks why they are talking about the miso soup. Indigo teases that they are also partaking. To think that Raphael, who has no interest in food, would like it. Layla realizes that Raphael is the Dragon King's name. Raphael sharply calls Indigo's name in warning, but Indigo waves it off, telling him not to be shy. The king looks slightly irritated, his dark eyes narrowing as he asks what interesting thing she has been talking about. Layla straightens and explains, practically vibrating with excitement, that it is something called a refrigerator, an amazing box that can preserve ingredients for a long time. If she has that, she can serve even more delicious dishes than she does now. She adds that she heard Spruce might be able to make it. Spruce leans back lazily, considering her words, and then says if she can explain clearly how it works, he might be able to make it. Layla's eyes light up. She can't believe it might actually happen. Burgundy, standing beside her, grins, and the two of them high-five each other, bursting with joy. Indigo, lounging nearby, tilts his head, clearly teasing, suggesting that if the king wanted to join in, he could. The king doesn't spare him a glance, instead keeping his gaze fixed on Layla's radiant excitement. He declines silently, and Indigo rests a hand on his face, smirking. A few days later, Layla and Burgundy stand before a massive box hovering above a glowing magic circle. Layla murmurs it looks like something really fun is about to happen. Could Spruce really make a refrigerator out of this, with no materials at all? Spruce says he just needs to keep the inside of the box cold, right? If so, the magic of ice is fine, he guesses. She excitedly tells him that is right, but not to the extent that it doesn't freeze. Spruce extends a hand toward her, explaining that a clear mental image is necessary for the final touch. Layla places her hand in his, and he guides her gently, asking her to picture the refrigerator clearly in her mind. She shuts her eyes, focusing on a perfect appliance just like the ones she knows from home. Suddenly, the box starts floating, glowing with brilliant light. Sparks of magic swirl around it, and when Layla opens her eyes, the box hovers before her, transformed into a full-sized commercial refrigerator, gleaming and perfect. Burgundy leans closer, his eyes wide, clearly impressed. Layla swings the door open, peering inside with a squeal of delight. The refrigerator is exactly as she imagined. Spruce confirms that since the power comes from the ambient magic, it is ready to use as is. Layla spins around, grinning, overflowing with gratitude, thinking that Spruce truly is the country's #1 magician. Without thinking, she turns toward the king, her smile stretching impossibly wide, almost taking over her entire face, and thanks him for granting permission so readily. With this, she will make the most delicious food he has ever tasted. The king watches her, frozen in place. But then he passes by her, ruffling her hair lightly, and Layla freezes in place. There is a smirk on her face as he disappears from sight. The next morning, Layla decides she's going to open the refrigerator. Everyone in the kitchen hovers around, eyes wide, waiting to see if the food has spoiled or not. When she swings the door open and sees everything perfectly fine, relief washes over the group. Faces light up with happiness and joy. Out of nowhere, Spruce appears, his usual deadpan face giving nothing away, as if he just wandered in for no reason at all. Layla almost jumps out of her skin and spins around to see him. Burgundy follows right behind, muttering that Spruce probably just wanted to see if his magical box was working and maybe he was tempted by her food too. Layla's eyes light up at that, and she decides to show off a little by pulling out some cookies. Both men watch her curiously as she explains that they're called icebox cookies, made possible because she let the dough rest in the refrigerator. Burgundy takes a bite first and freezes for a second, surprised at how delicious they are. Spruce stays quiet but his expression mirrors the faintest hint of surprise. Layla mutters that if only they had things like microwave ovens, baking would be so much easier. She freezes when Spruce leans slightly closer and asks her where exactly her homeland is. Her brain immediately scrambles. She stammers, trying to figure out how to answer, but before she can, he presses further, asking where she learned about convenient things like refrigerators and cooking ranges, and whether her homeland is normally like that. Layla blinks, completely at a loss. She doesn't even know where to start. She gulps, panicking, and blurts out that before all that, she has a question for him. He's knowledgeable about magic, right? She wants to know if there's anything like magic that could transfer a person from a completely different world. Spruce asks her what she means by a different world. She scrambles to explain, saying it's a place that isn't here, a place you could never reach no matter how far you walked or sailed. He listens quietly for a moment, before saying there's nothing like that. Her face falls. He's never heard of anything like it. No records exist of people being summoned from another world. There is magic that can teleport people and things across vast distances, but that's a very advanced magic, limited to only a handful of people who can use it. Layla blinks, feeling a little dumb, and wonders if maybe something happened to her that even he can't understand. Burgundy pipes up, looking as confused as she feels, asking what any of that has to do with her hometown. She stands up, telling them she will give the cookies to the other people too. She gives some to them and tells both Spruce and Burgundy to take them to the Dragon King and Lord Indigo. With that, she practically bolts out of the kitchen. On the way, she thinks that her hometown is impossible to explain anyway. No point dwelling on things she doesn't understand. Time to switch gears, work first. Suddenly, she bumps into someone. She immediately apologizes. The woman smiles warmly and says it's fine. Taupe appears nearby, asking what's going on, and then glances at the woman again. It's Wisteria. She says that it's rare for Wisteria to even come to the kitchen. Wisteria introduces herself casually, saying she's the head maid of the Dragon King's castle and heard through rumors that the kitchen had changed, so she came to see what the situation was like. And now that she is here, she feels relaxed and at ease. Layla extends the tray of cookies toward Wisteria and asks if she would like to try one as well. Wisteria picks it up, inspecting it with a smile, and comments on how cute the sweets look. She teases that Layla must be the rumored meal provider, doesn't she? Layla nods and says yes, her name is Layla. Taupe pipes up, reminding Wisteria that it was also Layla who proposed meals and breaks for the kitchen staff, and the current leeway they enjoy is thanks to her. Then, with a smirk, Taupe teases her, saying well, besides cooking, she's completely useless. The head maid seems to be thinking over something, tapping her chin, then asks Layla if the other maids could also eat the staff meal in the kitchen. Layla tilts her head, curious, and asks where the maids who aren't in the kitchen usually eat. Wisteria explains that they stand in the break room, nibbling on whatever is made in bulk in the kitchen. Layla blurts out that it's the same condition that was in the kitchen and warns that if they keep doing that, they will get tired fast. Wisteria nods, saying that they would be grateful if the maids could eat here in the same way. Layla looks at Taupe and asks if that's okay. Taupe smiles and says of course it is. Layla beams, thanking them, saying she'll tell everyone right away, and thanks them again for the cookies. Layla is happy that the atmosphere seems to be getting better and better. Taupe warns that it is going to get quite busy after this. She just hopes that everyone can get their rest. Later, in her room, Layla freezes mid-brush, repeating aloud, a party? Magenta, sitting on her bed, informs her that a party is going to be held at the castle soon and warns that it'll be busier than usual, especially since Fawn is always so tense. Layla blinks and asks what kind of party needs that much preparation. Magenta sighs and explains that it's for the Dragon King's queen selection. Even though the Dragon King rules a country, he doesn't have a fiancée, so the older retainers are getting anxious. Up until now, dignitaries have introduced various young ladies from within the country, but the Dragon King has absolutely refused all of them. Magenta goes on, saying that they've also considered having him marry someone from another country because the neighboring kingdom of Vavl is always causing problems. It's a powerful nation that divides the continent with the Dragon Kingdom, but they always push for influence in the Dragon King's territory. On top of that, the the Queen of Vavl is completely infatuated with the Dragon King. Layla, tilting her head thoughtfully, suggests that a political marriage might be suitable between them. Magenta freezes in horror at the suggestion, blurting out that no one would be happy with her being queen. She explains that the Vavl princess shows up to parties she's not invited to, constantly sends presents to the king, and throws tantrums whenever she's rejected. At this point, Magenta warns, the princess might even attack with her army. She's a real troublemaker and will probably force her way into this party too. Meanwhile, in the king's study room, an official clears his throat and tries to bring up the topic of the banquet, requesting confirmation from His Majesty. The Dragon King, however, barely pays attention. His eyes are glued to the cookies that Burgundy and Spruce brought in, and he finds himself imagining Layla's smiling face again, which makes him smile slightly without realizing it. When the official calls his attention again, the king flinches. The official asks if he's even listening, scolding that he should be more aware as a king. He emphasizes that it's time for him to settle things seriously, or they'll face endless worries. Another official steps forward, urging the king to consider the queen's selection seriously this time. The king frowns, finally lifting his gaze from the cookies, absorbing the weight of the conversation. The Dragon King's marriage hunting party is finally drawing near. Venue preparations and food preparations and so on, the entire castle has become hectic. In the midst of all that, as for her, she's participating in the discussion about making the menu. Because on the day it wouldn't be a course meal, but standing buffet style where people serve themselves their favorite dishes. Then they can stock up on lots of cold dishes that can be stored in the refrigerator. Something like that. Taupe agrees with her idea and says she will be completely tied up with the hot dishes. Magenta says then for the sweets, how about focusing on baked goods that can be prepared a day before? Taupe says the refrigerator is truly a godsend. The day before, the party Taupe has already prepared the side dish and orders 50 servings in the refrigerator right away. The day before the party, Fawn walks into the kitchen, glaring at her and mutters they should have the maids other than the kitchen staff help out too. She gulps down and starts to reach for the tableware, but he snaps absolutely not. She shouldn't touch the tableware. He grumbles nothing good ever comes from her getting involved, and he cannot handle any more work at a time like this. She mumbles she's going to the refrigerator to get a snack and bolts out of there. She drags a stool over and carefully climbs onto it to reach the refrigerator. The moment she pulls the door open, she pauses. It's packed to the brim. Too crowded, she thinks. That can't be good for cooling. Leaning forward, she stretches her arm into the back, trying to find the dough tucked somewhere behind the containers. But then the stool wobbles and she slips, but before she can fall, an arm wraps around her waist and steadies her. She freezes. Raphael is standing behind her, holding her upright. He looks at her, stunned, and asks if she is all right. She stares at him, cheeks warming, then quickly pulls away from his hold, almost stumbling again in her rush, apologizing in a flustered voice. He shakes his head and tells her he was just passing by and saw her about to fall from the platform. She nods quickly, still embarrassed, then tilts her head and asks why he is in the kitchen. He avoids her gaze, the tips of his ears faintly red, and says it was just a walk. She watches him for a second, mistaking him as the type to run away from his job, isn't he? Then her face suddenly brightens, and she says tomorrow is finally the party and that she is really looking forward to it. But instead of responding, he frowns slightly and looks away. Her smile falters. Did she miss something? She clears her throat and says she should go back to work since she has to make cookies for the snack soon. He repeats, snack. She explains that she will be serving it with tea during everyone's break time. He smiles faintly and tells her he also received the sweets she sent from Spruce and that they were delicious. Her face lights up, and she asks if he would like to have some more, offering to bring them to the usual dining room as soon as they are ready. Before he can answer, she flinches. Indigo appears at the doorway, a wide smirk stretching across his face, and asks Raphael what he is doing in a place like this. Raphael straightens and says he was just leaving. Indigo lazily tells him not to run off during duty. Raphael grumbles that he just went out for a change of pace and that he is going back. Indigo chuckles and adds that Burgundy has been running around searching for him. Raphael mutters Burgundy spends half his time running around for fun anyway. Later, as Magenta pushes the tea trolley down the hallway with Layla beside her, she says she is honestly surprised by Layla and that everyone in the kitchen was. Layla agrees, adding that Taupe made the weirdest face when she told him the Dragon King wanted sweets. Magenta snorts. She smiles apologetically and says she is sorry for making Magenta help. Magenta scoffs and replies that if she had not, she would probably break the dishes before even carrying them. Suddenly Magenta stops walking. Magenta studies her and asks if she is really not afraid of the Dragon King. She blinks and asks why she would be, then wonders aloud why everyone is so scared of him. Magenta's voice lowers as she explains that for low-ranking servants like them, people like him are above the clouds. She tells her to try imagining the most important person she knew before she came here. She opens her mouth to answer and nothing comes to mind. She suddenly panics, asking what they should do, admitting that now that she thinks about it, she is getting scared too. Magenta nudges the trolley forward again and tells her there is nothing they can do about it since they have no choice but to go. Just then, Fawn steps out from the door ahead, a deep frown on his face, and tells them not to make a fuss in the hallway. They both stiffen. They enter the office. She pauses the moment she steps inside, her eyes darting around. This is the first time she has come to the Dragon's King office. But she shakes herself out of it, telling herself this is not the time to get carried away. She blurts that she brought the sweets he ordered. She sets the tray down and begins placing the cookies neatly before him, explaining that the white ones are plain and the others contain dry fruits. She bows her head and says she will excuse herself now. He tells her to stay. Her head snaps up. Fawn's mouth falls open. The king glances at him and dismissively says he just wants to hear a little more explanation about the sweets, then tells him to bring an extra chair for her. He brings it quietly, and then Magenta and he leaves the room. And she is left alone with him. As she sits there, Magenta's words echo in her mind. People above the clouds. Her fingers twist together. She had still been thinking like a modern person. Maybe she never really understood. This person is reserved for someone like her. She almost jumps when he suddenly asks if she made these. He picks up a cookie, takes a bite, and his expression softens. He says it is delicious, just as expected, and that he even forgot his fatigue for a moment. She thanks him softly. Seeing him eat so happily like this honestly makes her happy too. He asks if she is really good at cooking. She quickly shakes her head and replies that she can barely manage this much. He might not know it, but she is completely useless at everything else. She cannot even clean or do laundry properly. He says that is why another maid came with her today. She admits that the head chef was worried she would definitely mess something up. He smiles faintly, then gently calls her by her name. She freezes. A second later, she smiles brightly and says that his name is Raphael, isn't it? He pauses and replies that only his close aides call him that. Her eyes light up, and she says it sounds super cool and that it is a wonderful name. They end up talking, one thing leading to another. By the time he finishes the desserts and tea, he suddenly realizes how long she has been standing there and says he ended up keeping her there the whole time. She starts to leave, then stops and turns back. She tells him that from now on, when he comes under the pretext of a walk, he should bring his pet along. He repeats the word pet, confused. She explains that she means the black dragon she saw the day she fell there. For a moment, he just stares at her. Then he bursts into laughter and says she thinks that dragon is a pet. She blinks, dumbfounded, and asks if that is wrong. He shakes his head, still smiling, and tells her no, she is very interesting. His voice softens as he adds that it has been a long time since he laughed like this. His heart feels lighter when he is with her. She pouts slightly and asks if he is making fun of her. He forces himself to stop laughing and tells her no, he means it. He then fondly smiles at her and says he is glad she came here. Her face heats up. She turns and hurries out of the room. Once she is in the hallway, she presses her palms to her cheeks and lightly slaps them. No way. This is not the time for this. Tomorrow is finally the day of the party. Even the low-ranking maids will put their spirit into it. Meanwhile, Wisteria tells Layla that since she will be in front of the guests, she has to keep her appearance neat. Being too flashy would also be a problem. Layla nods and says then she should just go with the image of a receptionist. Wisteria blinks, repeating, receptionist. Layla quickly puts on some light makeup, then looks back at Wisteria. Wisteria smiles at her, saying she's surprised makeup really suits her, doesn't it? She looks cuter than usual. Then she adds that they should fix up her hair a little too. Wisteria braids her hair carefully, commenting that her chestnut-colored hair is soft and nice. Layla notes that a lot of people here have dark hair. Wisteria agrees, saying her hair color seems pretty unique in the country. Layla thinks to herself that she hasn't considered it before. Does that mean she's an Isekais person? Once her hair is done, she looks at the mirror and lets out a smile. How wonderful. Wisteria tells her to do her best. Layla steps into the banquet hall, eyes wide, completely in awe. Nobles are everywhere, sparkling and glimmering in their gowns. It's like a scene from a movie or a fairy tale. Every young lady is gorgeous, radiating beauty and elegance. If they're all like this, it's basically a competition to see who's going to win the highly desirable guy, isn't it? Suddenly, the announcement echoes through the hall, the Dragon King is here. Layla freezes when he steps in. As expected, he looks effortlessly cool, dressed all in black. The musicians start playing violins. Layla quickly snaps into her duties. A lady nearby calls out, asking if she could bring her a drink. Layla hesitates for a moment, distracted by her beauty. But the woman notices her staring, then smiles, composing herself, and says hello. It's an honor to meet you. Layla blinks, shocked, wondering if they've met somewhere before, but she can't recall. She approaches the maid beside her and instructs her to bring the fruit wine to the lady in the pink dress. She freaks out when the maid informs her that the lady is the queen. Layla realizes it's the queen of Vavl. Why did she greet her like that? Her confusion deepens. From his throne, the Dragon King watches the crowd quietly. Indigo leans over and asks if there's any young lady he finds interesting. The king mutters he was spacing out. Indigo says that he isn't participating in the dance at all. It's tough to keep the atmosphere lively. Even Burgundy is trying his best. Indigo nudges him again, saying if there's someone he's interested in, he should just talk to them. Raphael warns Indigo not to say it so casually. Fawn steps closer to the king, reminding him it's about time he dances with someone. For the sake of the nobles, he should at least dance with one of the young ladies they've pre-selected. The Dragon King looks annoyed and says he has told him several times. Wisteria and Layla stand a little ways off, listening quietly to all the back and forth. Wisteria explains to Layla that although they have invited many young ladies today, they say the main candidate, or rather the candidates, have already been narrowed down in advance. And now Fawn is caught in the middle between the dignitaries and the Dragon King. Her eyes go back to the king when he suddenly stands up. Wisteria casually remarks that maybe Fawn's persistence has finally paid off. For a brief second, it almost looks like Raphael is about to approach the Queen of Vavl. But instead, he walks right past her and stops in front of a young lady standing nearby. He takes her hand without hesitation and leads her toward the dance floor. Layla stands there, completely frozen, as a sudden and very unwelcome feeling crashes into her chest. The feeling catches her off guard. She doesn't even know what it is, only that it makes her uneasy. She tells herself it's nothing. She's just a servant, after all, and it shouldn't matter who the Dragon King chooses to dance with. None of this should matter to her. Indigo comes up to her and comments that she looks gloomy. She looks up at him in shock, clearly not expecting him to notice. Wisteria then asks him shouldn't he be staying by the Dragon King's side. Indigo replies that it's fine since the Dragon King is in the middle of a dance right now. Even so, he adds that it's more of a mechanical dance than anything else. He mentions that Raphael seemed to be watching the corner of the venue very intently for some reason. He explains that he only came over because his girl, Sue, was here, and he had called out to her. Wisteria suddenly says that she wants the Dragon King to find a partner soon, and casually adds that she wants Indigo to do the same. Indigo responds that Raphael's partner is his childhood friend, and since that's the case, he can't exactly cut in line, so he has no choice but to wait. Layla then asks about the relationship between Wisteria and Indigo. Wisteria smiles easily and says that she thought she had already mentioned that Indigo is her son. Layla's hands fly to her mouth in shock. Now that it's been pointed out, she can't unsee it, their auras feel similar, and even their hair colors resemble each other. She realizes she doesn't really understand human relationships within the castle at all. A thought crosses her mind: Wisteria, despite being the head maid, is still technically a servant. Does that mean Indigo is nobility? Or something close to it? Then again, the Dragon King doesn't seem to care much about the status of his close aides in the first place. That realization makes her pause. She suddenly understands that she knows almost nothing about His Majesty the Dragon King, or about the Dragon King's castle itself. Nearby, the Queen stands stiffly, her teeth clenched in clear frustration, while Layla finally sinks to the floor in quiet relief. At last, the party is over. All that's left for her to do is wipe down the tables. Just then, Magenta comes running over, calling out that there she is and saying she's been looking everywhere for her. Layla asks what's wrong and whether she needs something, but Magenta doesn't answer properly. Instead, she grabs Layla's arm and starts dragging her toward the kitchen. Layla asks if some kind of problem has happened. Magenta replies that it's more like a problem, or rather, that she just heard the Dragon King say he wants miso soup. That makes Layla freeze in place. A late-night snack. As she makes the miso soup requested by the Lord Dragon King, Layla wonders what she should put in it. Thanks to the party, there are plenty of ingredients left, but since it's already late, she thinks it might be better to focus on vegetables that are easy to digest. She looks down at one of the ingredients and pauses. Isn't this something usually used for salad? She wonders what it tastes like. The softness, the rich bean flavor. Isn't that almost like tofu? Magenta asks if the miso soup is ready. Layla panics for a second and almost says the wrong thing, quickly apologizing instead. She decides to go with vegetables and the tofu substitute they have on hand. Simple is best. Once it's done, she says that it's ready. Magenta immediately tells her to hurry and serve it. Layla asks where she should take it. Magenta tells her to bring it to the Dragon King's private room. Surprised, Layla asks if they are even allowed to enter a place like that. Magenta replies that of course that's impossible, Layla just needs to leave it with Wisteria at the entrance. Layla sighs in relief. Alright, her duty ends there. But at the entrance, to everyone's shock, the Dragon King suddenly orders everyone to leave, everyone except Layla. She stands there, stiff and nervous, as the others hurry out. She never thought she would end up alone with the Lord Dragon King in his private room. Even here, in his own space, he looks seriously cool. He apologizes for suddenly making such an unreasonable request. Layla pouts slightly, saying that it's true, there was so much food at the party venue already. He smiles and tells her not to be so angry, adding that she's ruining her lovely face. She blushes immediately and straightens up when he points out that she looks different today. He notes that she's wearing makeup, isn't she? Then he starts eating casually, which somehow makes her blush even more. He notices the smallest changes and compliments her so naturally that it leaves her flustered without warning. He comments that today's miso soup is simple. Layla replies that since he's eating so late at night, she thought something easy to digest would be better. He admits that it feels gentle, and adds that her miso soup is exceptional. Flustered, she blurts out that it's just her home cooking. He smiles and says that's exactly why it's good for him. Meals, to him, are usually about being corrected on etiquette, listening to nobles gossip and flatter one another at social gatherings. They are flavorless and boring. He's always being watched by common people, their gazes urging him to hurry up and marry. Even today was no different. But when he's with her, he can forget all of that. Even the idea of having her make miso soup for him like this every day crosses his mind. It would be nice, he says, if he could just protect this small happiness. She stands there, stiff and nervous. Didn't he just casually say something outrageous? Like asking her to make him miso soup every day. She tells herself to calm down. It's just that he likes the soup. That's all. There's no hidden meaning behind it, she's sure of it. She says that eating just miso soup every day isn't good for his health. He teases her back, asking whether it wouldn't have been rude for him to just keep eating at the party venue instead. She thinks about it for a second and admits that it's true. She thinks sitting expressionlessly on the throne without dancing with anyone was also pretty rude, wasn't it? But there's no way she can say that out loud to him. Instead, she asks whether he really disliked the party that much. He doesn't answer that question. Instead, he says that she worked quite hard today. She looks at him in surprise and asks if he was watching her. He replies that from the throne, many things are clearly visible. He says she seemed busy, but she was always lively. She smiles at that and murmurs, "Is that so? It's true that today was quite something." She adds that it was fun. Fun. He repeats the word, caught off guard by the huge smile on her face again. She nods and says yes. It was the first time in her life that she had seen such a gorgeous party. All the young ladies were wearing beautiful dresses, and the music and dancing felt like a dream. It was like stepping into a world she had always longed for. He seems to think for a moment, then stands up. He says that unfortunately there's no music, but they should try dancing together anyway, just to properly conclude today's party. He reaches out and takes her hand in his. She panics a little and blurts out that she has never danced before. On top of that, her clothes aren't appropriate at all. He just flashes her an easy grin and looks at her like it's not a problem in the slightest. Without dressing up, he thinks she's cute enough. He tells her to just follow his lead and start with her right foot. Before she can argue any further, he's already guiding her, gently twirling her around. Her heart won't stop racing. She murmurs she thought the Dragon King disliked dancing. He smiles and replies that it depends on the partner. That answer makes her blush. She wonders what is happening to her. She's been flustered the entire day, one thing after another. It feels unreal, like she has somehow wandered into the role of the heroine in a fairy tale or a movie. Without realizing it, she starts humming softly. He freezes for a moment and looks at her in surprise, asking what song that is. She hurriedly explains that it's from a movie, or rather, a famous song from her hometown. At that, his expression softens, and something like sadness flickers across his eyes. He says that's right, she really did come from very far away, didn't she? He adds that for the time being, even though he has kept her confined to the castle, he has left everything else as it was. She quickly shakes her head and says no, it's fine. She has nowhere else to go anyway, and just being allowed to stay here has helped her more than he knows. He hesitates, then asks if it's alright for him to ask about her hometown. Did she have family there? Friends? The moment goes quiet. This is exactly what she has been trying not to think about. She still doesn't know how to go home, and sometimes her existence feels like it's floating without an anchor. Who should she ask? Who can she rely on? She doesn't even know that herself anymore. He notices her silence and gently asks if he brought up something difficult to talk about. She quickly says no, she's fine. She tells him she has been treated very well here. That she has come to love the castle, and everyone in it. She says she's slow, but she's tough, so he doesn't need to worry about her. He looks at her with clear surprise, like he didn't expect those words at all. Only then does she realize she has said far too much. Embarrassment floods her, and she hurriedly says she should be taking her leave now. She turns and runs off. He watches her go, his gaze lingering on her retreating figure, something quiet and almost sad settling in his eyes. Meanwhile, in the palace of Vavl, the queen is seething. What was that supposed to be? Seriously. To humiliate the queen of Vavl so openly, how dare he? Why does he do this to her? Why doesn't he understand? Servants notice her shaken and injured state and quickly leave to fetch aid box. She stands alone in her chambers, staring at his portrait. There's a mixture of anger and longing on her face. Why doesn't he see it? Why can't he understand how deeply she adores him? This time she will make him understand. The next morning, Taupe gives Layla an errand. They have run out of spices after using so much during the party, so she tells her to head down to the market below the castle. Layla immediately brightens. This is the first time she will be leaving the castle since arriving here. What kind of place is the market? She can't help feeling excited. Later, she finds herself in the bustling streets of the capital. Stalls line the roads, packed with vegetables, fruits, meat, and all kinds of daily goods. She looks around with wide eyes, taking it all in, then suddenly realizes she has no idea where the spice shop is. She scans the crowd and spots a man in a cloak nearby. Deciding to ask him, she approaches him and then freezes. Her mind goes blank. That face. It's the king. No, there's no way. A king wouldn't just be standing around in a place like this. She immediately tells herself it has to be a look-alike. Panicking, she turns on her heel and tries to dash away. Before she can escape, her wrist is caught. Raphael asks her if she is ignoring him. She blurts out that it really is him. He calmly says their eyes met perfectly, so there is no way she didn't recognize him. Flustered, she explains that she thought he was just someone who looked similar. She never expected him to actually be here. He tells her he came for an inspection. Walking around like this lets him see the town in a more natural state. Sometimes, he sneaks out like this. She immediately asks what happens if his identity is exposed. He gives her a quick wink and says Burgundy is nearby as well. If both of them are disguised, they won't stand out. Layla only noticed because she already knows him. Then he adds that, honestly, her appearance stands out more than his. Chestnut-colored hair. Smoky quartz eyes. Rare traits in this country. She blinks. Now that he mentions it, Wisteria did say something like that the other day. Panicking, she hurriedly tries to cover her hair with the basket she is carrying and asks if she should hide it if she stands out that much. He smiles at her tactics and tells her it's fine even if she doesn't. Just then, a shopkeeper loudly calls out to them, asking if they are a couple. He recommends torachika, saying it's freshly baked. Without hesitation, the king walks over, buys one, and hands it to her. She takes it and immediately starts eating, completely absorbed. He tells her it's a traditional snack of the country. It tastes really good, but he adds casually that it still loses to her cookies. She almost chokes, flustered, and tells him he praises her way too much. Later, the two of them walk side by side through the town. She watches children running past them, laughing freely, and says the public looks truly happy. He agrees, saying it feels peaceful, or maybe tranquil is the right word. Layla tells him this is actually the first time she has ever left the castle. The town is clean, lively, and everyone seems nice. She can walk around alone without any trouble. She admits it's kind of amazing. He says that's how this country usually is. Pretty peaceful. He adds that even if Vavl attacks again, he wants to protect this scenery. She freezes for half a second and then blurts out, so they really attack a lot, huh? He asks if she heard that from someone. She nods. He looks a little surprised and mutters that it has already reached her ears. Then he shrugs and says they will probably attack again anyway. They never learn. She tilts her head and casually suggests that if that's the case, shouldn't they just make peace already? Or, better yet, since they keep pushing for it, he might as well just marry into Vavl. The atmosphere drops. He stops walking and shoots her a sharp look. He asks what she means by might as well. She instantly panics and says nothing at all. He then asks why she even came to the market today. She smiles, opens her mouth to answer, and then remembers. Spices. Oh no. She was sent out to buy spices. She starts freaking out right there in the middle of the street. He calmly points ahead and tells her the shop she's looking for is right there. She thanks him way too enthusiastically and asks if he's heading back to the castle now. He says no, he plans to wander around a bit more. She nods, bows, and starts to leave, but then he calls her name again. He tells her he's looking forward to today's soup. She beams at him and promises she'll put extra effort into it today. Satisfied, he adds one last thing. Next time he meets someone he knows, he probably shouldn't suddenly grab their arm. He should say hello first. Otherwise, people might think he's a pervert. He blinks at her, completely stunned. From the corner, Burgundy completely loses it and starts laughing. The next day, Layla is completely lost in thought. Yesterday was fun. Really fun. She got to see the market, walk around town, eat snacks, and even talk about random things with the Dragon King. Then she snaps out of it and shakes her head hard. That wasn't a date. Absolutely not. Taupe and Magenta both stare at her with suspicious eyes, clearly wondering what kind of foolish thoughts are floating around in her head. Taupe is the first to break the silence. With a smile that's way too knowing, she suggests Layla go out for a bit while she's resting. Maybe take a walk in the garden. A change of pace, right? Layla hesitates for half a second, then nods. Well, if they insist, she'll take them up on the offer and enjoy a short break outside. She stares at the flowers with wide eyes, completely forgetting how blinking works for a moment. They're unfairly beautiful. She looks around at the gardeners working. It is the crystallization of the gardener's daily efforts. The people of the castle and the people of the town all work hard. Everyone here works hard. The people of the castle, the people of the city. They all have lives, places to return to, people waiting for them. A distant look crosses her face. What about her? A voice suddenly asks, very casually, if she wants to run another errand in a place like this again. She jumps and turns around, only to find the Dragon King standing there like it's the most natural thing in the world. She blinks, then mutters that they really seem to run into each other a lot lately. Is he slacking off? He immediately denies it. He says that while working in his room, he could see her in the garden. Indigo told him that if he was curious, he should just go talk to her instead of always watching from afar like some kind of creep. He adds that he just came out for a short break. She smiles, a little amused, and says that now they're both on break together. She quickly adds that she's not slacking off, just so he knows. This is a proper break, officially approved. He says that's good. These days, everyone in the kitchen has quite a bit of leeway, doesn't they? She nods. Taupe and Magenta are doing fine. Fawn is still a little naggy, but overall, everyone treats her really well. She even gets to come admire the garden during her break. The weather is nice, the flowers are beautiful, and honestly, she got a pretty good deal. He murmurs something about flowers and slowly looks around. After a moment, he gathers a small bouquet and holds it out to her, saying he wants to give it to her. She stares at it, then softly murmurs that they're cherry blossoms. He says they look like something from her hometown. That flower-shaped ingredient she always puts in her miso soup, it must be related to where she comes from. After yesterday, he tried to find something similar. She freezes. Tears suddenly spill down her cheeks before she even realizes it's happening. He panics a little and asks if she's okay. But her mind is already far away. Back in Japan. Her hometown. The world she came from. The people she left behind. What would the her who was alive over there groan after collapsing? If she really died, what is she now? Suddenly falling into an unknown place without understanding the reason. Anywhere she has to act cheerful, do her job and make sure she gets recognized, so she's on edge. She was actually always anxious and uneasy, so she had no choice. She looks up as he gently wipes the tears from her cheeks. He murmurs an apology, saying he's sorry for unintentionally putting a burden on her. She freezes when he calls her Layla. It's strange and warm all at once. He murmurs she shouldn't push herself too hard alone and that he wants her to tell him more about her hometown. If she truly wants to go back, he will do everything he can to make it possible. But if Layla is gone, then maybe he can. Before he can say more, her gaze drifts upward. A swarm of insects fills the sky like a dark cloud. Panic flashes across his face. No, that's an enemy attack from Vavl, he shouts. Layla murmurs to herself, wide-eyed, noticing the sheer number of enemies in the sky. Panic bubbles up, and she asks what they should do. Raphael immediately calls Burgundy over, and in an instant, he is at their side. A glowing magic circle appears beneath him as he leaps into the sky. Layla blinks, utterly stunned. He is flying. Raphael notices her shock and explains that the ability comes from Burgundy's magic equipment. Lord Spruce appears beside them, pointing out that the gear is specially imbued with magic, which allows it to handle aerial combat. Even so, the presence of such immense magical power in Vavl's attack has Spruce's gaze darken with concern. Raphael relies on Spruce for ground support. Layla stands frozen, heart hammering, unsure of what exactly is about to happen. Then, a sudden blast of wind hits her as the air vibrates with power. Her jaw drops as Raphael transforms, massive and scaly, wings unfurling. He is the dragon himself. He soars into the fray, dodging and crushing enemies midair as arrows, javelins, and magical projectiles rain down from the sky. Spruce conjures a shimmering barrier in an instant, yanking Layla inside, warning her of the danger. She hesitates for only a moment before realizing she must obey and call Indigo for backup. Heart racing, she dashes into the palace. Magenta and Taupe call after her in alarm, worried for her safety since she had been in the garden. Layla shakes her head, barely looking back, focusing on finding Indigo. Taupe commands a servant to quickly deliver the message. A deafening roar echoes through the palace, freezing Layla in place as she stares at the sky. Magenta rushes to her side, panicking, urging her to stay inside. Layla says she knows but cannot tear her eyes away. She has to see what is happening. On the battlefield, the dragon tears through the enemy ranks with terrifying force. Burgundy swings his weapon on one enemy and he falls, but Layla blinks in disbelief. It is not a man, but a doll. Indigo answers it's the magic of Queen of Vavl, and really, it's not like they're facing real people. He immediately orders his troops to ready the magic bow unit, and the entire unit raises their bows, aiming toward the swarming enemies in the sky. At his command, the arrows shoot upward, soaring into the air with deadly precision, and Spruce's magic amplifies them, making them glow brighter and accelerate faster and faster. As expected, Spruce's timing and power infusion are perfect. The Dragon King mutters that it's time to attack and finish them in one decisive strike. A small ball of fire appears from his mouth, and as he exhales, it expands into a massive inferno, burning through all the enemies who had been attacking from the sky. Layla instinctively shields her face, her heart pounding, but then the Dragon King glances at her for just a split second, and she freezes completely. Did she really just make eye contact with the Dragon King? Meanwhile, the remaining enemies, seeing the chaos unfold and the fiery might of the Dragon King, begin to retreat, and a wave of relief washes over her. She breathes out, whispering to herself that they did it, the enemies are leaving, and Indigo confirms that, yes, they managed to successfully repel the attack. When the dragon finally lands on the ground, Layla rushes forward and asks if he is injured. He shakes his head and asks if she wasn't scared by his appearance. She shakes her head with a huge smile. She had been worried for him, but even so, she can't deny how incredible it is to see him fight for everyone. She admits that, above all, the Dragon King really is the Dragon King. When she first met him, she had ended up calling him a monster, and well, she's still a little sorry about that. He transforms back into his human form and smiles at her, teasingly confirming that, yes, she did call him that. Later, in the infirmary, everyone is getting treated, and Magenta is fussing over Burgundy, who groans and complains for her to be gentler, while she snaps at him to shut up and calls him a muscled brain, muttering that if he's really such a great warlord, he should be able to fight without getting a single scratch. Burgundy grumbles that he really did fight hard, but then Magenta stares at him, her face scrunching up as she looks at him. Just then, Spruce appears, wearing his usual expressionless, blank face, and points out that Burgundy broke the magic equipment. Doesn't he realize how much trouble it takes to charge that magic even once? Layla approaches them and asks them the enemy's leftover trash, where should she carry it? Magenta tells her to leave everything to Spruce. She tells him to set up a magic circle and throw it in it, and then he can rain down on the source, or rather, the kingdom of Vavl. Spruce shrugs, looking unbothered. He explains that the king's power is different. The dragon form is something passed down through the royal bloodline, not regular magic. It's a royal thing, proof of the Dragon King himself. Burgundy says that's probably why the Queen of Vavl is so obsessed, right? Layla hadn't realized and had even thought he was a pet. Her thoughts are interrupted by a sharp, unexpected sound. Spruce frowns. Fireworks? In broad daylight? She steps outside with the others and freezes. A memory hits her suddenly. The Queen of Vavl had told her she'd go to the Dragon Kingdom someday and guide them. The fireworks were the signal. When they went off, she would remember everything. Her hands fly to her head. The realization hits. She was a Vavlian. She remembered everything. She was a modern Japanese person in her previous life. She slipped on trash scattered on the floor. It is a fact that she definitely died. However, she had been reincarnated as a Vavlian of all things. For those 20-odd years, she grew up as a perfectly ordinary Vavlian. One day while working as a low-rank cook in the royal palace, she was oppressed by a woman who told her she was called by the queen. Layla was led by the woman to the queen's chamber, her mind racing with questions. What was she supposed to do? She couldn't recall doing anything particularly praiseworthy. If anything, this felt like the sort of situation where one got quietly dismissed. When they finally arrived, the queen sat gracefully, with an aide from the royal court standing nearby. The queen gestured for Layla to take a seat and stated that they would be talking for a while. She then handed Layla a cup of tea. It tasted slightly sweet, strange. Layla drank it cautiously, still unsure what this meeting was about. Leaning back, the queen asked if Layla remembered the Dragon Kingdom, Vavl's enemy. Layla nodded without thinking. Everyone in Vavl knew that the Dragon Kingdom was the nation that divided the continent with them, monopolizing fertile lands and even taking territory that once belonged to Vavl. At the time, that belief had felt natural, almost common sense. But now, listening to the queen speak so calmly, Layla felt a quiet sense of unease settle in. The queen explained that repeated attacks from the outside had failed, and that continuing down the same path was pointless. Instead, she intended to make the Dragon Kingdom collapse from within. She told Layla that she would infiltrate the Dragon Kingdom and, when the time was right, bring Vavl soldiers into the Dragon King's castle. The signal would be fireworks, marking the moment to act. From a box, the queen produced a small tube and handed it to her, explaining that it was a smoke flare imbued with a minor spell of confusion. Layla was instructed to scatter it carefully. While the spell took effect, Vavl's main forces would approach the castle. It was, according to the queen, a simple role but one that relied entirely on precise timing. Layla could only stare, her eyes widening. She was just a cook. Surely there had been some mistake. The queen stated that the water mirror had foreseen this outcome. Ancient magic had pointed to Layla as the most suitable person for the task, and the aide would confirm it. Sending her was not reckless, it was calculated. The aide stepped forward and demonstrated the ancient magic of foresight, reinforcing the queen's claim. Layla could only mutter to herself that it sounded absurd. The queen's expression softened slightly as she admitted that the mirror's prophecy was not absolute. Still, she added that doing nothing was worse than acting on an uncertain vision. Layla thought that the entire plan sounded insane. Infiltration? By her? Still, she took another sip of tea, trying to steady herself. Then, as if it were an afterthought, the queen asked whether the tea mixed with the medicine tasted all right. Layla froze, her heart skipping a beat. The queen continued, warning that if Layla's identity as a Vavlian were ever revealed, the consequences would be disastrous. Her cooking skills were well regarded, yes, but secrecy mattered far more. Layla's head spun, and the words barely registered. The queen leaned forward and told her that she would forget everything she had experienced up until now. Without memories, there would be no chance of betrayal. The medicine's effect would fade only when the firework signal was sent, so until then, Layla had nothing to worry about. In the present, Layla clutches her head, her eyes widening in disbelief. Magenta rushes forward, shaking her gently and asking what's wrong. Layla blinks, as if she's just snapped out of a daze, and blurts out an apology, unable to form coherent words. Her thoughts spiral. She was already dead in her previous life. There had never been a way back to her original world, not from the very beginning. What's more, she who was reincarnated into this world was actually a Vavl person and a spy for the animation. Magenta studies her pale face and suggests that perhaps Layla is feeling unwell. If so, she will call the head nurse immediately. But Layla shakes her head violently, her body trembling uncontrollably. The Dragon Kingdom is a bad country without thinking or doubting used by the queen. She even lost her memory and she came this far. But the actual Dragon Kingdom is kind and warm to everyone, trying to make a place for her who is all alone. In her last life before dying, her last thought was from now on she will live properly. If so, she has to decide with her own will properly. Layla looks at Magenta with tense and hopeless eyes, telling her that there is something she has to reveal to everyone. The kitchen falls silent as the others turn to stare, frozen. She is a Vavlian, a spy from the enemy nation. The realization hangs heavy in the air, but then chaos erupts as everyone speaks at once. Taupe snaps at them sharply. This is the kitchen, she reminds them internally. As long as they are here, they are under her jurisdiction. Taupe steps forward, frowning, questioning what Layla plans to do next. She doubts Layla would actually spill everything and then say she plans to betray them, asking rhetorically if she could be so foolish. Layla blurts she would never do that. Taupe lets out a small smile, noting quietly that Layla is not that clever and wonders if everyone else will believe her. Fawn steps forward and tells her to wait. What she said about losing her memory can be a lie too. Taupe scoffs at the notion, reasoning that if Layla were truly a threat, she would have poisoned them all long ago. It was Layla, after all, who improved the kitchen environment for everyone, and that counts for something. One by one, the others nod in agreement. Layla watches them quietly, her eyes shimmering with emotion. Finally, they all acknowledge their trust in her. Gratitude floods her chest, and she bows deeply. Taupe's expression hardens again, reminding her that this cannot simply be ignored. Fawn points at her with a stern finger, noting that the matter must be reported to the Dragon King. They will await his orders, and Layla must be prepared to accept whatever punishment is deemed appropriate. Later, in her room, Layla opens the side drawer and gazes at the small tube inside. Now she understands why it felt so important not to lose. It is a spell of confusion. She cannot simply scatter it. Tomorrow, she must tell the Dragon King everything, and the thought makes her stomach tighten. She wonders what he will think when he learns the truth. The next day, she kneels before the Dragon King, officials watching with sharp, judgmental eyes, and 2 guards standing rigidly behind her. The king asks if that is all. Layla replies quietly that it is. He slams his hand against the throne, the sound echoing through the chamber, and commands her to look into his eyes and say if that is all. Fear claws at her chest, but she lifts her gaze and meets his eyes firmly, declaring that she speaks no lies. She acknowledges her debt to the Dragon King, that he gave her a home when she had nowhere to go and treated her well. She cannot betray this country. She accepts that she is a Vavlian and is ready to face any punishment. The officials erupt in reaction, insisting that her confession alone is not sufficient and that leniency would not set an example. They demand the king enforce strict measures. The Dragon King pauses, silent, his expression unreadable. Finally, he orders that she be taken to jail, adding that once the Vavlian matter is settled, he will issue further orders. Burgundy's eyes widen in disbelief at the news that she is not being banished. Indigo scowls and mutters that he is an idiot. If she were banished now, Vavl could take advantage of it. He glances at the king, realizing that the true burden of this moment rests solely on him. A guard seizes Layla and begins dragging her away. Panic surges through her as she calls out desperately to the king, but he does not respond. As she's taken to the prison, her eyes widen. She looks around. It is much wider than her usual room and the furniture is simple, but the sheets are clean and there is a lamp too. Fawn glares at her, voice sharp and authoritative, reminding her that this arrangement is the Dragon King's consideration. She is to live here without inconvenience. She should at least be grateful. Tentatively, Layla runs her fingers over the sheets, still in mild shock. Even in this situation, the Dragon King has ensured her comfort. Every word, every action, every careful consideration he has shown until now radiates kindness. That thought presses down on her chest, the weight of responsibility and loyalty twisting her stomach. That is precisely why she cannot betray him, even if she fears disappointing him. But then she recalls his glare, the commanding voice that demanded, "Is that everything?" Tears prick her eyes. What is she supposed to do now? Meanwhile, Fawn returns to the Dragon King and reports that she has been taken to the tower room, exactly as ordered. The Dragon King murmurs quietly to himself before glancing toward the dinner table. He notes the absence of miso soup tonight. Fawn hesitates, unsure what action to take, and suggests someone in the kitchen could prepare a substitute. The Dragon King shakes his head, calm yet resolute. He considers the replacement unnecessary. Back in the tower room, someone shakes her gently to wake her. Layla mumbles in her sleep, still too early in the morning. Magenta snaps what carefree things she is saying. She presses a finger to her lip and glares at her. She explains that she has given the jailer a small treat, kitchen special sleeping herb soup, to ensure her escape is possible. They control the stomachs of this castle, she adds with a wry wink, tossing a cloak to Layla. She tells her to put this on. They must move quickly. She asks her does she mean she will help her escape. She says, but if they do that, what about her? She tells her not to talk right now. Besides, she doesn't need to worry about her. Stepping outside, Layla freezes at the sight. It is not just Magenta, every maid from the kitchen and the castle's inner quarters is present, standing ready. Taupe approaches and grasps her arm firmly, issuing instructions in a low, urgent tone. She explains that time is short. She will sneak Layla out of the castle and hide her temporarily at her sister's shop in the castle town. From there, Layla will be safe. Taupe emphasizes that the castle grounds will be watched over by Wisteria's maids, ensuring no one notices the escape. They will also have Magenta and the men escort her to the shop so she doesn't need to worry. Magenta smiles at Layla, reminding her that she had said there was no need to worry. She explains calmly that this decision was not made by her alone. If things have come to this point, then all of them are involved together. Layla's voice trembles as she blurts out her concern. If matters continue like this, Taupe's position could get in danger. From the very beginning, the order to imprison her came directly from the Dragon King himself. If they allow her to escape on their own accord, do they truly understand what kind of punishment could fall upon them? Taupe only smiles in response. She tells Layla that thanks to her, the atmosphere of the kitchen and even the way they work has changed drastically. They were genuinely helped. When she thinks about it carefully, it really is a strange story. For so long, they had feared the Dragon King without ever truly meeting him. They feared trivial mistakes, feared being noticed, feared everything and grew exhausted from it. Wisteria nods in agreement and adds that it is true. She has worked in the castle for many years and realizes now that she had simply grown accustomed to that oppressive state. Being here for so long dulled her awareness. There were many things she failed to notice because of it. She admits that Layla's attitude initially surprised her, but ever since the incident with the refrigerator, even the military commanders and magic commanders have started appearing in the kitchen. They ate Layla's homemade food and praised it as delicious. More than that, they felt close. Like ordinary people. Hearing about the retainer's behavior and Layla's own story, Wisteria admits she has begun to think that perhaps even the Dragon King is not as terrifying as she once believed. Magenta adds that after the attack the previous day, she realized something again. Those people, who usually fight for the sake of the country had also fought for them. Another maid quietly joins in, saying that because they were always afraid of those above them, they had failed to see it. They had been protected all along, yet blinded by fear. They labeled important people as people to fear, building an excessively high wall on their own. Layla was the one who crossed it for them. Taupe states firmly that this is exactly why she refuses to let the Dragon King punish Layla. Abandoning her would be a mistake. It is the pride of a subordinate. Layla feels tears welling up. She never imagined they would think of her this way. Even the side work she did was simply based on knowledge from her past life. Because she knew nothing about the Dragon King, she spoke without fear. Everything that followed happened by chance. She still feels that she has done nothing with her own strength, only moving forward on the goodwill of others. Is it truly acceptable for her to run away now? She forces herself to think. There must be something she can do for them. Should she cook a meal for everyone? No, that would change nothing from before. Then an idea strikes her. She looks at Taupe and asks if she can have a little time before they run. She apologizes for involving so many people. If she is going to escape, she wants to leave something behind. Something meaningful. She tells them that before leaving, she wants to lure Vavl's soldiers into a trap. What a great idea, someone remarks from behind her. She turns in shock to find Burgundy, Indigo and Spruce standing there. She blurts out that it sounds like they want to be included in the operation. She wonders if it is really okay for them to get involved in something like this. Indigo shrugs and says that of course it is fine, as long as it remains a secret from the king. After all, he cannot act directly due to his position. This is how they will grant his wish instead. She repeats hesitantly, questioning if this is truly the Dragon King's wish. Indigo confirms that it is, and that it is to help her. Spruce acknowledges that the king would surely want to help her. Burgundy frowns, pointing out that as king he has a reputation to maintain. Indigo responds calmly that taking on troublesome matters at times like this is also the duty of his close attendants, and then prompts them to hear about the miso soup girl's so-called plan. After she explains everything, Indigo pauses before summarizing that she intends to serve miso soup with medicinal herbs to the enemy so they will fall asleep. She confirms this, adding that the idea comes to her after seeing Magenta put a guard soldier to sleep with herbal soup. Burgundy looks at her sharply, questioning if she really did something like that. She pouts and protests, insisting that they should not bring that up. She continues more seriously, reasoning that judging by the way the queen speaks, this time it will likely be living soldiers arriving. They will be hungry from the long journey, she explains, and by offering them a meal, they will let their guard down and suddenly fall asleep. Magenta interjects with concern, questioning what will happen if the queen attacks again with doll soldiers and pointing out that the strategy might not work. She also notes that there is no guarantee of when the soldiers will arrive. Indigo remains calm, explaining that it should still be fine even for the queen, because her magic cannot be used day after day. According to his intelligence network, he continues, the enemy seems to be secretly deploying troops near the Dragon King's castle and may be waiting for a signal from Layla. She begins to panic, realizing that this is no good because the signal flare carries a spell of confusion. Before she can finish, Spruce, still as emotionless as ever, pulls out a small tube and reveals that he confiscated the real one from her room. He explains that he dispels the curse. Though it is powerful, the spell formula is simple, a brute force spell, typical of the queen. Burgundy says that in that case, the device is just a mere smoke bomb now. Indigo responds that the enemy does not know this, so they should continue using it. Taupe points out that they must make preparations before lighting the signal fire. They will need a large amount of ingredients for the soup, and she will have to pick the sleeping grass as well. Spruce adds that they should enhance the sleeping effect, not just with herbs but also with magic. And with that they all begin the secret souvenir strategy. Everyone is working at their best. The plan started with Layla's idea, and she silently hopes it will succeed without incident. Lost in thought, she barely notices Magenta approaching. Magenta asks what is wrong, and Layla points out that she was an escaped convict. Will it really be all right if there is no one in the tower? Magenta reassures her, saying that is no concern, a proper substitute has been prepared. Meanwhile, the guards quietly carry food, and under a blanket, the substitute sleeps. One of them mutters she has been asleep the whole time. Under the bed, Fawn mutters to himself, hiding, questioning why he had to be here. Taupe had warned him that all the maids were busy and that he would have to stay put, sleeping the whole time to avoid being discovered. In another part of the castle, an assistant delivers reports to the Dragon King. The king asks about Fawn's whereabouts, and the assistant explains his physical condition is poor. The king observes that Indigo and Spruce also seem extremely busy. Back with the group, everyone stares at the preparations, and Layla murmurs that she hopes it all works out. Indigo calmly states that this is all they can do, just execute their part. Layla twists open the tube, and a thin wisp of smoke curls into the air. The signal ignites, and fireworks burst across the sky, a reply from Vavl. All that remains is to quickly finish the miso soup. Then, footsteps echo through the place, and everyone freezes. The Dragon King's voice booms angrily, asking if they are holding a secret strategy meeting behind his back. Chaos erupts as everyone mumbles at once. He sighs heavily, his voice cutting through the noise, remarking that it is probably just a plan to lure out Vavl, isn't it? Indigo steps forward, apologizing, saying he thought they might be troubled and was merely being considerate. The Dragon King sulks for a moment, but Layla steps forward and bows slightly. She expresses sincere apologies for acting on her own, explaining that she only wanted to do something for him and everyone in the castle. The Dragon King exhales deeply, his tone softening. He admits he understands, noting that interception was necessary and that he is not angry. Then, unexpectedly, he pats her on the head, warning her not to act recklessly beyond this. She is working hard for the Dragon King's castle, and he intends to help as well. Relief washes over Indigo and the others, smiles appear on their faces. At that moment, a messenger rushes in with a report: enemy forces are heading toward the castle, moving faster than expected. Everyone immediately moves to hide. The Dragon King advises Layla that if anything dangerous happens, she should scream for help, assuring her he will be close by. She meets his gaze and smiles, promising that she will do her best. Meanwhile, the army reaches the castle, the gate wide open just as they expected. Layla steps forward, holding her posture firm, and tells them she has been waiting for their arrival, expressing thanks for their long journey. The soldiers' eyes shift to her and the large pot behind her. One of them mutters under his breath, questioning if she is truly the maid spy, and what exactly the enormous pot contains. Layla meets their gaze steadily. Indeed, she is that maid. The pot contains the warm soup she prepared for them. She explains that this is part of a direct strategy entrusted to her by the queen. The queen assured her it will restore stamina and strengthen those who drink it. Hidden in the bushes, Magenta glances at her, worry etched on her face. Taupe leans close and murmurs that they must trust her and watch carefully. The army leader narrows his eyes, suspicion clear in his tone. He asks if this is truly the queen's plan. Sweat beads on Layla's forehead as panic flares, she is completely suspected. Her mind races. What should she do? How can she convince them to follow the plan? Then she straightens her back and adopts a controlled, slightly indignant tone. With all due respect, she says, the queen specifically entrusted this task to a lowly maid like me because it was necessary. Are they seriously going to ignore the queen's orders? The soldiers exchange quick, uneasy glances. Seizing the moment, Layla moves swiftly, ladling the soup into their bowls with precise care. They must be hungry, she urges. Eat well, recover their strength, and attack with all their might. One soldier finally sips the soup. His eyes widen slightly as he declares, "It's delicious." Layla allows herself a subtle exhale. After they finish, the army leader declares that they should advance on the Dragon King's castle. Suddenly, one of the soldiers collapses to the ground, stunned. The leader watches as all of them begin to fall, one by one, asleep. The Dragon King calls Layla from behind the bushes, asking how it's going. She reports that everyone has fallen asleep exactly as planned. Burgundy and the others step forward to tie up the soldiers. The Dragon King tells Spruce to tie them as well. Cruz lifts his staff, and the ropes coil and tighten around the bound soldiers on their own. Magenta asks what comes next. The Dragon King takes command, instructing them to gather the captured soldiers in one place. He directs Spruce to prepare the magic formula to return the soldiers and tells Indigo to draft a formal letter of protest to the queen, including the calculation of reimbursement. Spruce adds 50% extra without emotion. Layla allows herself a small, relieved smile, everything has worked perfectly. The Dragon King steps next to her, praising her careful work and confessing that he had worried for days over whether more force would be needed. Layla humbly admits that it wasn't difficult, the enemy had been foolish. He admits that he knew she wasn't a traitor, yet he had put her in prison because of the elder's pressure. Layla waves off his apology, insisting that she should be the one apologizing for causing him worry. She tells him that they are simply exchanging apologies. He looks at her, momentarily stunned, then cups her cheek. He explains how he had thought of her constantly while she was gone, while her memory was at risk and she was alone in enemy territory. He acknowledges the loneliness and anxiety she must have endured and expresses that, despite the queen's interference, he is truly glad she came to the Dragon Kingdom. He thanks her sincerely, emphasizing that her presence has been a gift. She knows the Dragon King probably has a position and responsibilities, but as expected, eating delicious food, she wants him to laugh at trivial jokes and be happy. Her heartbeat quickens as she realizes she likes him. He calls her name, expressing his desire to be with her from now on, just as before. Thanks to the success of her plan, he believes the elders will forgive her, and once the official release procedures are complete, she will be able to be by his side again. Her relief is interrupted when the army leader awakens, shouting in rage at being deceived. He declares that he will report her to the queen and vows to return with an even larger army next time. Spruce casually knocks him unconscious with his staff, remarking that the man's effort to resist sleep is admirable even as an enemy. The Dragon King steps forward to make the final confirmation. Layla stands silently, tension tightening her chest. She wonders how the army will perceive the events, aware that this isn't the moment to celebrate, the success of the operation is only the beginning. Taupe approaches her, asking what her next move will be, now that the plans have shifted. Layla reflects that she must leave the Dragon King's castle according to the original plan. Her little sister will provide refuge at her shop, ensuring Layla's safety until the next stage begins. She thinks her memories have probably all returned, but perhaps there is still a mission set up by the queen. What if she remembers something again due to some trigger? Besides, sooner or later, Vavl's side will find out about her betrayal. If she remains at the Dragon King's castle like this, she might cause trouble for everyone again. In that moment, she quickly makes up her mind and calls out to Taupe. Layla tells Taupe that, as scheduled, she will leave now. Taupe studies her carefully, asking whether she is truly fine with this decision. Layla thinks that it is fine, this is exactly how it was planned. She even managed to leave something behind, a final souvenir in the form of her actions. Given the confusion surrounding the incident, it is better for everyone if she disappears quietly. In the end, this choice is also for the sake of the Dragon King. Taupe gives a small, gentle smile and says that since Layla has already decided, she will not stop her. She turns to the men nearby and instructs them to guide Layla to her sister's shop as arranged, reminding them to use the back gate. She then tells Layla that she should leave quickly. Layla expresses her gratitude, explaining that she was unable to properly thank everyone in the kitchen. Taupe responds that it is fine, as there is no need for that now. She adds that Layla should also pass along her gratitude to the Dragon King when the time comes. Finally, she urges her to go before anyone else notices. Layla pulls the cloak over her shoulders and begins to move. As she walks away, she thinks of the people she is leaving behind. And then her thoughts settle on the Dragon King, the first person she ever loved. Meanwhile, Magenta is seething. Layla disappeared without a single word. Burgundy tells her not to be so furious, suggesting that there must have been a reason. Magenta snaps back that she already knows that, but the edge in her voice fades almost immediately. Her expression falters, and she struggles to explain what she truly feels. It is not just anger, it is something closer to disappointment. It would have been nice if Layla had at least said something. Even one word would have been enough, especially after spending every day together. Burgundy agrees quietly. He reminds her that Layla was important to her too, saying it casually as he ruffles her hair. Magenta's face flushes at the unexpected gesture, and when she looks up at him, she finds his expression has grown distant. He adds that there are others in the castle who are not doing well either. In the study room, the Dragon King rests his face against his hand and exhales slowly. Indigo remarks that the Dragon King's dignity seems completely ruined, wondering aloud whether the girl who lived here for such a short time truly affected him that deeply. The Dragon King does not answer at first. When he finally speaks, his voice is subdued. At that moment, there had been no lies in Layla's eyes. He truly believed she would remain in the castle with him. Yet in the end, she left without saying anything to him at all. He wonders whether her silence during the operation had already been preparation for escape. Indigo admits that such a possibility had been discussed, but everyone had simply been too absorbed in what was happening at the time. Perhaps Layla herself did not even think about leaving until the very last moment. Her mind then must have been filled only with carrying out the plan and considering everyone else. Indigo suggests that this, in itself, proves her sincerity. A person capable of deception would not have acted that way. Indigo then comments that the Dragon King's power is troublesome. When the Dragon King meets someone's eyes, whether he wishes to or not, he sees their truth. This ability goes far beyond ordinary magic. The Dragon King replies bitterly that he wishes he had never obtained such a power. Flattery not born from the heart, hollow loyalty, ambition, fear, anxiety toward him, he feels all of it without exception. Yet with Layla, nothing had ever been false. No matter when their eyes met, they were always clear. Even after learning that he was the Dragon King, she treated him the same. Even after recovering her memories as a Vavlian spy, she never lied to him. Taupe suddenly stands, saying there is something he wants to point out. When the Dragon King first gathered them, the dignitaries had been displeased. A rising low-ranking guard, a stray from the Magic Academy, the son of a maid whose only strength was cleverness, none of them had been suitable companions. Even so, the Dragon King chose them by his own will and kept them close. If that was the case, then next time, he should trust his heart again just as he did then. Taupe adds that the rest should be left to his intelligence network. He pulls out a card that reveals Layla's current location. Now, he says, they should strengthen their internal preparations for diplomatic negotiations with Vavl. There is far too much to do. But when the time is right, the Dragon King should go and meet her. Half a month later, at the Tia Mave Cafe, Layla's co-worker calls out that miso soup has been ordered at table 2. Taupe's younger sister says with a laugh that it has become a huge success. Layla's cooking has turned weak sales into something lively. Just as her sister said, the staff here cannot even manage cleaning or washing dishes properly, and Layla ends up busy every day. Still, she is being taken care of in her own way. Mob asks her what she is preparing now. Layla explains that it is steamed egg custard. Since she already has dashi stock, she wants to add a dish unique to the shop. She tastes it herself and remarks that it is delicious. It looks like pudding, yet it is not sweet, and it seems like it would pair well with her other dishes. Suddenly, someone calls her name. She responds immediately and rushes over, apologizing as the customer complains that she has been calling for a while. Layla has temporarily returned to the name she used in her previous life to hide her identity, but she is still not accustomed to it. As she moves, her gaze drifts briefly toward the window, her thoughts lingering on someone far away. Then, as she steps back into the cafe, she freezes. At one of the tables sit guards from the Dragon King's castle. Her breath catches. She tries to pass by them without drawing attention, but her luck fails her at the worst moment. She slips and stumbles forward before falling hard to the floor. The basket falls from her hands, scattering seaweed everywhere. Mob rushes out at once, asking what all the commotion is about. Layla looks up at her with tears in her eyes, voice breaking as she says she has done it again. Mob says this will not do at all, and reaches out to help her up while ordering someone nearby to bring a mop immediately. A man hidden beneath a deep cloak observes the scene in silence. Once outside, he slips a folded letter from his sleeve. With a quiet chant, magic activates, and the paper twists and reshapes itself into a small bird. It flaps its wings once before taking off into the sky, flying straight toward its destination. The queen receives the letter not long after. The moment she reads its contents, her expression twists with fury. She demands to know what this is supposed to mean. That girl was sent to the Dragon Kingdom because it was said she was the right person. This outcome was not part of their agreement. More than that, of all people, that girl being on good terms with the Dragon King is completely unacceptable. The thought alone makes her grind her teeth. She immediately issues an order to Weld, commanding him to form the strongest possible army using the spell formula prepared for emergencies. If things have come to this, then she will use her final resort. If necessary, she will go herself. Her voice is sharp, decisive, leaving no room for refusal. Elsewhere, the Dragon King sits at his desk, telling himself that he must return to work. Documents wait to be signed, reports to be reviewed. Yet his gaze drifts to the plate beside him. Her cookies are still there. He picks one up slowly, and without warning, Layla's smiling face flashes through his mind. The memory catches him off guard that he recalls Indigo's words, spoken earlier with that knowing tone, that when the time is right, he should go and bring her back properly. After a moment, he looks outside the window and tells her to wait for him. On the other hand, the queen also says to wait for him, this time she will teach him a lesson. In her dream, Layla sees all the people of the king's castle. She blurts, what is she doing here? They tell her that it is getting late. She should hurry and deliver the miso soup to the Dragon King. She thinks that is right, the Dragon King must be waiting for her. Then someone calls her name. Her eyes open abruptly. Mob is standing over her, looking mildly confused. Mob asks what Layla is mumbling about in her sleep and remarks that she is surprisingly grumpy for someone who has just woken up early. Before Layla can properly respond, Mob presses a finger to her lips, signaling for silence, and gestures toward the window instead. There is a guy who has been coming up since last night. Their appearance is strange and very suspicious. Mob says it is her intuition from years of doing business. That is not someone from the Dragon Kingdom. Mob says this is intuition born from years of running a business. That man is not from the Dragon Kingdom. Layla follows her gaze. She notices the man's bright hair, even from a distance. Her heart sinks. That color belongs to Vavl. The realization hits her at once. A pursuer. The queens. But more troubling than that is the next thought: if they have found her, then they have found this shop. Mob and everyone here could be dragged into this. Mob tells her to listen carefully. Coincidentally, an irregular supplier is heading to the seaside village soon to procure ingredients. Arrangements can be made. Layla can go with him and hide, then move on to a town farther away from the capital. Mob calls her name again, this time more softly, sadness flickering across her face. Mob tells her it is all right. She does not know the full details, but she understands enough to know Layla is carrying serious trouble. There is no hesitation in her voice as she tells Layla to hurry and prepare. Layla bows deeply, thanking Mob for taking care of her, even if it was only for a short while. The supplier helps her hide among the supplies, concealing her beneath crates and cloth. As the wagon begins to move, Layla realizes that this place, too, is no longer hers. With every passing moment, she is being carried farther and farther from the Dragon King's castle. After some time, the supplier tells her they will arrive at the village soon. Layla peeks out and finds her gaze drawn to the sea. Sunlight scatters across the water, dazzling and calm, as if nothing in the world could disturb it. The sight steals her breath. The man laughs lightly, mentioning that the landlady of the pub had made a great fuss when seeing him off. He had wondered what it was all about, but remarks that Layla really is a carefree girl. She can only smile faintly in response. When they reach the unloading point, the supplier tells her he will finish the procurement first and asks her to wait nearby. Layla wanders into the market, eyes wide as she takes everything in. Everything is amazing. She wonders if the castle's ingredients are also transported like this, passed from town to town by countless hands. She thinks it really is nice. In every town, there are people living their lives. There is work, there are relationships, and there is a place where each person belongs. She remembers the Dragon King's words, that this country is like this everywhere and that he wants to protect it. The supplier eventually calls her back, saying it is time to leave. He tells her he will let her off at a suitable post town farther ahead. That is right, she has to leave. Even for the Dragon King's sake, she cannot stay. And then, without warning, chaos erupts before her eyes. A huge circle rips open in the sky, like a shadowed disk. A massive circle appears in the sky and in the next instant, dozens of tiny dragons swarm outward, a massive dragon anchoring the center. On its back stands the queen, a twisted smile on her face. The queen declares that she has finally found Layla. Shock spreads instantly as the Vavl army descends upon the market. People freeze, then scramble in all directions, whispering anxiously about why the enemy appeared here. Someone sends a messenger racing to the nearest security post. Layla presses her hands to her mouth, horrified. The market, peaceful just moments ago, is now chaos. The supplier shouts at her to run, but she stands frozen, realizing the queen's attention is fixed solely on her. She rushes toward the queen, yelling that Layla is the target and that innocence should not be involved. The queen tilts her head, seemingly amused, saying that Layla's willingness to appear on her own shows a strange sense of consideration. Wood and debris from the docks crack and splinter under the queen's magic, falling toward Layla in a deadly cascade. The queen seethes, declaring that a mere low-ranking maid dares to steal the Dragon King from her side, an act she cannot tolerate. Magic whirls around Layla, lifting her into the air. The queen comments that she could even request an audience with the Dragon King for her. Layla's heart pounds. She left the castle to avoid causing trouble, yet innocents are drawn into the chaos around her. With a sweep of her hand, the queen releases Layla into the air, letting her fall. He murmurs honestly, she seems to really like falling onto him. She stiffens in his arms as he holds her firmly, looking down with a faint, reassuring smile. Indigo remarks that was really close, wasn't it? It is best that the transfer was on time. Behind him, Spruce raises his staff, a glowing magic circle suspended in the air. The queen says oh my, she let the low-rank inmate fall. But to think that it would bring even the third general over here, she then looks at the king and says she's happy to see him. Indigo glances at Raphael, noting that he is heavily outnumbered, and wonders how they should respond. Raphael says he will scatter them in an instant. Layla looks at him, worry flashing across her face. She wonders if this means they are going to try to use the Dragon King's power again. The queen smiles, assuring that she will not allow that to happen. She steps forward, her presence commanding, and begins weaving magic. The Dragon King's eyes narrow and he asks sharply what she is doing. Spruce reacts immediately, he screams in horror that it is the dragon's sealing barrier, disbelief in his voice. Burgundy glances at him, confusion and alarm evident, and asks what that means. Spruce explains grimly that the queen has been meticulous within this barrier. Raphael cannot transform into a dragon. The queen glances at Weld with approval, praising his work. Weld beams with pride, declaring it an honor to receive her recognition. The queen says if he cannot turn into a dragon, their military strength is superior. Indigo shouting to Spruce, who raises his staff to counter. The queen's magic strikes, shattering the staff in an instant. Spruce screams as an arrow rushes toward them, and in a split second, Burgundy lunges, swinging his sword to deflect the arrow and protect them. The queen commands her army to aim not at the Dragon King but at the others. Her gaze lingers on the Dragon King, eyes softening with fondness, urging him to stop his futile resistance. She asks her if she will listen to her request, and Layla can only watch, tense. The Dragon King asks her sharply what her request is. Her expression shifts in an instant, as if someone flipped a switch. She beams at him, opening her arms wide, and declares that it is for him to marry her, her expression bright and affectionate. Everyone freezes, their faces blank with disbelief. Layla's mind races, how can she be so cheerful after being violent, and now demanding marriage? What is this person even saying? The queen justifies herself, explaining that if the leaders of the great nations dividing the continent marry, both countries will grow richer together. The Dragon King snaps, calling it nonsense. That union would destroy the country and the lives of its people, just as they stand now. Layla blurts out that he is right, forcing someone into marriage. What about the Dragon King's own feelings? The queen snaps at her to be quiet and the wind around Layla suddenly whirls into a violent tornado. In an instant, Layla disappears within it, leaving the queen standing still, expression blank, muttering that it is quiet now. The Dragon King calls out sharply, moving to act, but Burgundy seizes him, warning against rash actions. Indigo adds, grim-faced, that even for Burgundy, this force is too much to handle, and urges the king to stop being reckless. He curses under his breath, restrained by their warnings. Meanwhile, Layla tumbles from the air and lands in a tree, letting out a sigh of relief. The impact saved her from worse danger. Around her, villagers call out, helping her down from the branches. She thought everyone had escaped far away, but they remained, worried for the Dragon King and the others. They ask why he has not counterattacked and hope he will scatter the enemy soon. As Layla collects herself, she recalls Spruce's words about the dragon. Of course, the dragon cannot use its power while those people hold the staff, keeping it restrained. She wonders if she can do something about it. Just then, her gaze lands on a wagon. She then turns to the villagers and asks them if they could lend her a hand. Meanwhile, the queen, standing imperiously, presents a contract and declares that if things continue like this, nothing will be resolved. Why not simply conclude a marriage contract here? If that happens, she guarantees the safety of the Dragon Kingdom and the little girl. Everything will be settled. The Dragon King hesitates, pondering what to do. What was the reason he kept refusing marriage in the first place, in the days when he was vaguely putting everything off but now he cannot use the dragon's magic? He is this powerless after meeting Layla, but if Layla and the other Dragon Kingdom are safe without being able to state his own, it would be better just to go with it. Just then, a loud voice calls his name. He turns and sees Layla tumbling down the mountain in a wagon. A guard tries to intercept it but fails, and the wagon crashes into the barrier, shattering it. Without hesitation, Raphael transforms into his dragon form, roaring in anger. The guards panic and shout for everyone to evacuate. Layla watches him in a trance, stunned by his immense power. Burgundy glances at her, asking if she is all right. She reassures him that she is fine, she was only rolling with the wagon and breaking a few things. The queen, furious, commands her army to fight properly, but the next moment, she is thrown off balance by an unseen force and plunges into the water. The dragon lands beside Layla, shifting back into his human form. He speaks, telling the queen that her true self is already visible. She craves to be praised as beautiful, envied by her people, seeking a partner equal to her own vanity. There is no sincerity in her desires. He tells her to stop chasing illusions and discard her useless pride. For a moment, silence reigns. Then the queen breaks, crying like a child, mouth wide, eyes shut, face crumpled. She sobs, questioning what she can do, lamenting that as the queen of Vavl, she needs a husband worthy of her. The Dragon King sighs and turns away, walking off. Panicked, Layla calls after him, asking if it is alright to leave. He assures her that it is fine, she probably has no energy left. Welt lifts the crying queen, carrying her away as the circle appears again, whisking them both from the scene. Indigo watches them leave and says, "Good grief, what a troublesome neighboring country they have. He must demand proper compensation for this." Layla turns to the Dragon King, thanking him for coming all this way and wondering how she should apologize. The fact that she left it certainly was surprising, and he was sad too, but that was an action taken out of consideration for everyone in the castle, wasn't it? He then says in a soft tone it is him who should apologize. He was just moping around by himself. It took him so long to come and meet her. She says no, he wasn't late at all. He caught her when she almost fell. She was very relieved and she was very happy. She thinks he hasn't changed after all. Having the Dragon King here gives her a warm feeling. He cups her cheek again and tells her he has stopped dithering and that this time he will put his words into action. He wants her to come back, not as his chef, not in some small role, but as his queen. The air thickens, and even his men freeze, caught in a sudden, tense silence. She opens her mouth to protest, her thoughts tripping over themselves, and she blurts that this must be a joke. He flushes, clearly flustered, insisting that it is not a joke, that he is entirely serious. Burgundy glances around, dumbfounded, muttering that this is exactly how the king intends to play it. Indigo says that he simply decides things on a whim, making it all feel too sudden. The king narrows his eyes slightly, voice softening with vulnerability as he admits he always thought things would end up here eventually and wonders if Layla hates the idea. She shakes her head, barely forming words. She does not hate it, but it is so completely new that her mind struggles to catch up. He presses a gentle kiss to her temple, as if to anchor her, and tells her to take her time. They will return to the dragon castle together. She stiffens, heart hammering. He tells her he has no intention of letting her go and that he wants to drink her miso soup every day. His hand closes around her. And then he confesses, it seems that he has been completely won over by her body and soul. After various hesitations and conflicts, the Dragon King who went to pick up Layla safely came back. The Vavl army has been repelled, the immediate threat neutralized. From the vice-general's perspective, the castle hums with tension, even as normal life tries to resume. He had told himself that when the time is right, he would go pick her up, but now, walking the corridors, he notices something odd. Raphael hasn't made a move, and the cafe where she usually works, Tia Mobu, shows no sign of her movements. He mutters under his breath, wondering what he can do next. As he rounds a corner, officials bicker loudly. Why is the Dragon King leaving that girl alone? Did she betray them all? Some call for sending the army after her immediately. Indigo steps between them, voice sharp but measured, warning that moving a large army only gives Vavl an excuse. With just the Dragon King's power, their kingdom is always stronger than Vavl anyway. One official snaps back, accusing him of hesitation. If he's the king's aide, shouldn't he act decisively? He tells them he will handle it properly. Later, in the kitchen, he sits quietly at breakfast. Taupe's voice breaks through, asking if he came running away like a coward. He says he is just having a break. Burgundy exclaims that the higher-ups cannot be dealt with on an empty stomach. Indigo gives him a blank look, thinking Burgundy's always slacking off. He glances at his soup, noting its plainness. Today's staff meal is nothing special, but he can't help missing the miso soup girl's cooking. Taupe grumbles it cannot be helped, but he quickly assures her he will gladly accept it if offered. The absence of her energy, her presence, is felt. Magenta agrees, remembering how, when she first arrived, Layla's little mistake seemed to touch everything she did, leaving a mark. Taupe mutters that the king really saddled them with an outrageous girl. Magenta frowns, curiosity creeping in. She wonders why the Dragon King even sent Layla to the kitchen in the first place. Burgundy, chewing thoughtfully, shrugs, saying who knows. Magenta presses, pointing out that it was the king himself who brought her there. Burgundy insists he only guided her as instructed. Her rare hair and eye color had made her stand out in the Dragon Kingdom. Unfamiliar with the land or its ruler, it made sense he kept a close eye on her. Indigo muses quietly, thinking of the mysterious girl who fell from the sky. Perhaps the king hesitated to release her into town, leaving her under surveillance within the castle. That explains her presence, but why in the kitchen? That remains a mystery. The quiet tension is broken as Fawn bursts into the kitchen, calling to Magenta. He needs to move the girl's luggage and wants Magenta to open her room. Magenta passes the key to a maid, reminding her it's just the clothes she arrived in and a few personal supplies. As the maid carries the small bundle out, Magenta asks what she's planning. The maid replies casually that she's moving it to a new room. The door opens, and the room buzzes with activity. Maids rush in, changing bed sheets, arranging the small bundle of her belongings. Wisteria supervises every movement. Indigo stands frozen, trying to process it, before managing to ask his mother what's going on. She answers this is an order from the king, prepare the room quickly. No matter how he looks at it, isn't this a guest room for a lady? Or rather, this is completely preparation for someone to live here, isn't it? Even though he was so depressed until yesterday, he wonders what on earth is he thinking now. He guesses he has no choice but to ask the person directly. Just then, a messenger rushes toward Lord Indigo, bowing quickly, and delivers a report from the spy stationed around Tia Mobu. Indigo later enters the king's study and tells the king that, according to the report, Layla departed early this morning in a merchant's carriage from Tia Mobu. There were also people nearby who seemed to be Vavl's pursuers. The king murmurs that Layla is moving far away again and he is always one step behind. He wonders aloud if Spruce has any idea of her current location. Spruce says that he is tracking her presence, but it is tricky because she and those with her are not from this country. She is gradually fading, becoming indistinct and difficult to follow. He says if there were something tangible, filled with her emotions, he might be able to track her more easily. The king glances at the cookie jar on the desk and suggests that it could serve that purpose. Spruce quickly begins preparing the transfer spell formation. Indigo hesitates, worried about needing the council's approval, but the king dismisses the concern outright, insisting that the council does not matter at this moment. His focus is only on having them with him. He realizes that he was too hesitant before, but now he refuses to waste any more time and is determined to go to her immediately. Indigo thinks to himself that the king has already made his decision, in the present. Indigo also realizes the reason behind the meticulous preparation of Layla's room by the maids. It suddenly makes sense that the king has been preparing for her arrival as if she were his future queen. Observing the kitchen below from the window of Raphael's office, Indigo finally understands why the king placed her there from the very beginning. The intention was clear, to keep her near him, visible, under his watchful eye, even before he had consciously realized it. The entire plan had already started moving quietly, imperceptibly, but deliberately. It seems the king had orchestrated every small detail, arranging her environment so that she was never truly out of reach. Wisteria calls out to the staff, announcing that preparations are complete. She emphasizes that they are now officially welcoming the future queen and orders everyone to tighten up. As they return to the castle, all the staff line up to greet her, with the headmaid and Fawn standing front and center. Layla takes it all in, thinking about everyone in the Dragon Kingdom. As expected, they are ready to work hard immediately, but she can't help feeling guilty for all the trouble she's caused. Wisteria gives her a warm smile. Layla immediately apologizes for returning so soon. Wisteria says it's fine because it is the Dragon King's wish. Fawn clears his throat, admitting he had been against it, but since the Dragon King insisted, there was no choice. He mutters he is happy he can at least eat the stuffed meal. The Dragon King smiles at her, saying he had been lonely without her miso soup. Layla promises to make it for him tonight. She hesitates for a moment, then asks if she can go greet the kitchen staff. He replies of course. In the kitchen, Magenta immediately engulfs her in a tight hug, stepping back to scold her. She had been worried sick. Was everything alright at Mob's shop? Had things gone smoothly with Vavl? Taupe quickly intervenes, telling Magenta not to bombard her with questions, she's already had enough to handle. Layla's heart lifts at the sight of Taupe, and she smiles widely. Taupe says Magenta was worried, she had been distracted all day. Magenta blushes and protests, but Layla just laughs softly. This moment in the kitchen feels like coming home. Taupe gives her a bowl of soup, saying she should drink it and breathe after everything that has happened. Tea is delicious and soothing, even with memories from her past life and the troubles with Vavl. Well, now this is definitely her place after all. Taupe adds that even after she left, she tried to make miso soup herself, but it still couldn't meet the Dragon King's expectations that it must be special because it is her soup after all. Now that she thinks about it, earlier, he told her that she has captured both his heart and his stomach. Those words back then were from the Dragon King's true feelings. Thinking of it now makes her cheeks warm with embarrassment. Wisteria appears, announcing that her rest is over and her schedule is packed. She has suggestions to give about the room, the furniture, everything. Layla steps into her new room, her mouth falling open. Dresses of every color and luxurious furniture fill the space. She points a shaking finger and whispers that this must be a mistake, surely it isn't really her room. Wisteria smiles gently and assures her that it is genuinely hers. Layla protests, still thinking she should return to her old maid's room. Wisteria shakes her head, telling her everything there has been tidied up. Layla then asks why she's being addressed with honorifics now. Wisteria explains that she is no longer a servant, she will now be treated as the future queen, by order of the king. Layla freezes, stunned. Could the king really be serious? At that moment, the Dragon King himself appears. He announces that from today, this is her room. Layla calls his name in a flustered tone. But he goes on, saying he didn't know her exact preferences, so he had Wisteria and the others prepare the room based on their advice. Layla blurts her heart cannot keep up with such a sudden development. The king's gaze softens, tinged with sadness, as he tells her he is serious about making her his queen. Was he the only one who thought about it? Overwhelmed, she blurts. No, she's truly happy to be able to live in a castle like this again, but she still considers herself a servant. And if she suddenly told that she would become his queen, she would be troubled. The king looks thoughtful and says so as long as it is not sudden, it is fine, right? He then tells her to cultivate her feelings. Maybe she should study about it. She will develop a sense of being a queen. He says he will wait until her feelings catch up. And then he leaves her. She doesn't even know how to create those feelings. The next morning, she sleeps deeply, lost in dreams, until a maid gently shakes her awake. She murmurs something in protest, still half asleep, muttering, "Magenta." When her eyes finally open, two new faces come into view. One maid introduces herself as Sheena, assigned to serve her starting today. The other is Claret. Sheena gestures toward the wardrobe, urging her to finish changing quickly, offering to help. Flustered, Layla blurts she can manage on her own. Claret frowns slightly, impatient, reminding her that time is short and she must hurry. They help her into a stunning dress. She stares at it in awe, feeling every bit the princess she is expected to become. Sheena then mutters that breakfast is ready and that they are already behind schedule. At the dining table, lessons begin in earnest. Fawn, looking like a strict teacher, tells her how her schedule is going to go today and the importance of history for her. Even lunch proves a challenge. Wisteria corrects her constantly, emphasizing that each bite and gesture is part of her education as a future queen. By mid-morning, she collapses onto the sofa, pale and exhausted. It is barely noon, and yet her head feels as if it will split in two. Indigo enters and laughs at her state, noting that he will be in charge of geography this afternoon. She straightens immediately, but he tells her she needs not be so stiff. His class will be relaxed, mostly conversation while looking over the map. He asks if it is her first time looking at it. Since their kingdom has a mild climate and many plains, it is rich country where various crops grow. Since three sides are sea, the fishing and trade industries are also thriving. And he then points at a location and says this is the kingdom of Vavl. He assumes some of the knowledge might overlap with hers. She shakes her head, explaining that as a low-ranking maid, she knows almost nothing of academic matters. Indigo's eyes widen in mild surprise, remarking that he had assumed magical knowledge, such as that stored in the reservoir, would be common in Vavl. She realizes he is referring to knowledge from her previous life. Indigo continues, noting that although Vavl is a neighboring kingdom, its mountainous terrain makes it less prosperous than the Dragon Kingdom. When she asks whether the queen herself was fixated on the Dragon Kingdom, he supposes that may also be part of the reason. He adds that Vavl still possesses valuable resources, like minerals and magical plants, but the topography makes development difficult. Still, its abundance of undeveloped land gives it potential for growth. He closes the book and asks if they should stop here for the day. At that moment, Wisteria enters with tea. Her heart sinks. Another etiquette lesson? She thinks. Indigo begins to excuse himself, but Wisteria instructs him to stay and accompany her. Even someone as commanding as Indigo cannot refuse his mother. Wisteria places tea and desserts before her, reminding her that she need not be stiff. It is fine to fail multiple times against Indigo, she should treat him as a practice partner. Excited, she lifts the teacup but freezes when Wisteria corrects her. Her hold is wrong, she should not hook her finger through the handle. Indigo demonstrates the proper grip, showing that her fingers will look neat and elegantly aligned when held correctly. He explains that such matters are merely a question of practice. Raphael may not mind, but differences in status can be tricky. Sometimes those of lower rank must work harder to avoid gossip. Layla thinks Indigo is also from the common people, even if chosen by the Dragon King, he wouldn't be complacent and properly strives as a person. She knows because of her status difference, she also must do her best. Indigo smiles gently, reminding her once more that mistakes are acceptable. As her practice partner, he tells her she has nothing to worry about. That being said, tomorrow's lessons are full of difficulties. And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part.